Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the day 3 of INFOCOM 2020 virtual conference. The last 2 days have been super exciting with a lot of sessions and a lot of participation from delegates from across the SAARC countries and India. And we've also been having viewers on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for viewing InfoCom and attending it. Now, day 3 is also has some exciting sessions, but before we get into the sessions, let me have a mention about the sponsors for InfoCom 2020, without whom the conference would not have been possible. The host state for InfoCom 2020 is the Government of West Bengal, Department of IT and Electronics, along with Webel. And the gold sponsors for the event are Dell Technologies and Entity NetMagic. Technology Knowledge Partner is Accenture. Co-host is STPI. Partner state is Government of Chhattisgarh. Education partner, JIS University. Career partner, EduGuy Career Predictive Test. And we also have some associate sponsors like ACOP Systems, StarTech Inc., Pinnacle Infotech Solutions, Krishi Bikash Shilpa Kendra, Macau's Infotech, Power Grid Corporation of India. And our association partners are SARC CCI, NASCOM, and CIO Club. Thank you all delegates for joining back in on a Saturday afternoon. We are really grateful for your participation. And now we begin day 3 with a very interesting leadership keynote on what's coming next. And it is my privilege and honor to introduce our keynote speaker who is joining in from London, Mr. Ralph Simon, who's the chairman and CEO of Mobilium Global London. He is popularly known as the father of the ringtone. Mr. Ralph Simon has enjoyed a spectacular 30-plus year career in a variety of prominent fields like business innovation, media and entertainment, mobile smartphone technology and content investment with BollywoodHangama.com, exponential medicine and health with Singularity University, the digital education moonshot project with Silicon Valley's renowned education icon, who created Google Education and business deals with the major tech innovators from the UK, USA, Israel, Nordics, and leading digital superpower Estonia. He foresaw the potential of mobile phones and their business impact at the start of worldwide mobile transformation. He has consistently been at the forefront of mobile media innovation, mobile learning and marketing, social media ideation, and latest user trends for brands and business, and the latest mobile video usage. Ralph is one of the founders of the global mobile entertainment and mobile social media industry, a visionary innovator, and is popularly known as the father of the ringtone. His current focus with key innovators in business is in artificial intelligence, AR and VR, machine learning, and startup investments that grow substantial consumer engagement and major brand impact. He's a great friend of India and West Bengal, and over the years has become a distinguished speaker across India. And he's also friendly with West Bengal's own superstar Arijit Singh. And with InfoCom, he goes back a very long way, almost about 8 years we've known him and we've had him, and it's been an honor every time that he's joined us. I warmly welcome Mr. Ralph Simon, my dear friend, and thank him for accepting this request to be a keynote speaker at InfoCom. And before I hand over the session to you, a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, there's a Q&A box in case you have questions for Ralph. Please put in your questions and we'll try and get to them at the end of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, the keynote on what's coming next by Ralph Simon. Over to you, Ralph.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's wonderful to be in India, and especially on an important day today where the Indian cricket team are facing Australia in the T20. So obviously my thoughts are with India. I always like to support India. And first of all, would like to say, Aap Nare Kem on Achen to everybody. For those of you who speak Gujarat, Kem Cho. For those of you who speak Punjabi, Tuhada Ki Hai Hai. And of course, those of you that are in Tamil Nadu, we'd like to say FD Urukinga and Vanakam. So great to be with you. And today we have an interesting selection. What we want to do is to show you some things that are coming next and what is going to maybe be the next normal. So let's go to our first slide if we can, please, Bala and Xavier. Here we are. Okay, so what's coming next? What is coming next? It's been such a turbulent time. The COVID crisis has made us change so many different things. And what we're going to do in this session is look at some key new trends and ideas from around the world that could help your business in 2021 and beyond. After all, I'm sure there are many of you that might like to see if you can become the next Harsh Goenka or the next Sanjeev Goenka. You never know. Next slide, please. Okay, so could these new trends give you ideas to drive your success for your business, for your leadership, for your technology, and to actually make you succeed so that you can be a prominent company from India that also gets good business from around the world. There's so much potential for good ideas. Next slide, please, Xavier. So, are you ready? I hope you are, because what we'd like to show you first as our first slide is an invention on Earth that is going to be used in the International Space Station in 2021. So let's go to the next slide, please, Xavier. So what you see here is an interesting picture of an astronaut on the International Space Station, but he's actually on the toilet of the International Space Station, believe it or not. NASA, the Space Administration, which is now using Elon Musk's SpaceX rockets to go up into space, had a challenge this year called the Lunar Loo, or the Lunar Toilet, to design a new toilet for astronauts. And this was made open to the public just a couple of months ago. The contest was part of the Space Administration's preparations for the Space Agency's program to send the first woman and next man to the moon by 2024 and create a base on the moon that will facilitate missions to Mars. Now, of course, India has its own space program. So when you design a toilet for space where there is no gravity, this really requires you to think unusual ideas. And so this particular competition, NASA requested that the toilets were compact, function just as well as toilets on Earth, and work in both lunar gravity and microgravity. And the challenge was open to professionals and students under 18, and a prize money of $35,000 was offered. And there have been some incredible entries in this competition from students, from university students, and from scientists from all over the world, including from India. So if this is something that interests you, just imagine with space travel in the future, but also new inventive design. India has some of the best scientists and thinkers and innovators in the world. So it's time to sit down and think about invention. Next slide, please. So here's an interesting drone you can see. This drone looks a little bit like an airplane, but this is a service called Zipline, and the government of Maharashtra announced a partnership to bring autonomous delivery drones to India. This is supported by the great Indian company Serum Institute of India that's making the COVID vaccines. They're the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world. They are from India, a fantastic company. And the drone network will provide daily access to critical medicine delivery to India's citizens, beginning this year, actually. And Zipline has been providing a medical delivery service by drone for a few years. But this is the way that vaccines could be delivered all across India to help all of us save India from the terrible ravages of the COVID crisis. Okay, let's go to the next thing, and let's stay in our airborne line. Believe it or not, this picture that you're seeing here is a flying taxi. Now, with the traffic in Kolkata, the traffic in Mumbai, the traffic in Delhi, the traffic in all of the major metropolitan centers of India, do you think that a flying taxi service would work? This flying taxi is actually a large drone. It's not a helicopter, it's a large drone. And this is what you're seeing. It's happening in Barcelona in Spain. The idea is that these flying vehicles transport 4 people, 3 people, 2 people around urban areas, as well as use drones for the delivery of goods. And the thing is that as traffic gets worse, and this is a problem we're not going to solve in the near future, maybe there is an opportunity for flying taxi services like this. What do you think? If you think that flying taxi services could work in West Bengal or in Bangladesh, just imagine during the flood season in Bangladesh, this might be something that instead of being in a little tuk-tuk or a little scooter taxi, the cheap way of doing this is having a flying drone. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, this is a variation on the theme of drones, and Tesco and Manor are supermarket chains, Tesco in Ireland and England. And what they decided to do was they decided to have a home delivery trial using drones that allowed customers to order small on-demand basket deliveries of grocery and food. And these were assembled by Tesco employees and then flown out by a drone supervisor. And the trial service ran for 6 days a week and included real-time delivery tracking. Now, of course, in large Indian cities, it's difficult to do something like this, but maybe if there are villages or small areas just outside of, say, main Calcutta, this drone delivery service might be good for delivering groceries or medicines to elderly people who need the extra support. So this is an interesting drone delivery service. Maybe this could be something as an idea for the future. All of you scientists at the IITs or even the IIMs in India, have you thought of something like this that might be able to be used for good purpose and good value and good profits in India? Let's go to the next slide. Now, here's something really interesting. This looks just like it is a dolphin, but the truth is this is not a real live dolphin. Why is it not a real live dolphin? Well, as you know, we have a huge crisis with the destruction of nature and with the climate crisis. And in fact, just 2 days ago, the Secretary General of the United Nations said that we are on a suicide run, destroying much of the environment, including animal life. And the same thing has happened to the dolphin population around the world. So this is an interesting company in the United States called Edge Innovations. They're an engineering company that specializes in animatronics. This is when you make either a human or an animal to look real or to look human. And what this company, Edge Innovations, did is they built and created a remote-controlled dolphin that's meant to be an ethical alternative to real wild dolphins at theme parks. Because in the United States and in Europe, there are theme parks that have dolphins that people take their families and their kids to see. And these animatronic dolphins or robots will be safer for visitors to interact with and even swim with. The near identical dolphin replica was developed in conjunction with marine biologists. And how much do you think one of these dolphins would cost to make? Well, one of these dolphins would cost $3 to $5 million. Just think about that. That's what it would cost. But these creatures are very interesting. And in fact, if you know of a very successful movie called Free Willy or another movie called Anaconda, that same company built these animatronics. There are Indian companies right now in Pune and in Hyderabad and in Bengaluru that are involved in animatronics. So maybe making a dolphin or some other kind of animatronic animal, or even, can you imagine if you could make an animatronic of Shah Rukh Khan, so that if you are a woman that loves Shah Rukh Khan, you can have an animatronic of Shah Rukh Khan in your home with you every day. Let's go to the next slide. Now, here's an interesting game that was developed. Video gaming is such a huge industry. It's a $140 billion industry worldwide. And this particular game was just launched last month, and it's called Go Viral. And this is where users learn how coronavirus conspiracy theories spread online. A lot of people hear so many strange stories about COVID. Some people are saying that when the vaccine becomes available, you should not get it. Well, that is all conspiracy theories about it. And this particular game is made by the University of Cambridge in the UK and their social decision-making lab. And this takes players through 3 stages: fear-mongering, using an expert to tell a false story, the art of creating a false story, and during the game, which can be completed in just 5 minutes, the players request claims to their in-game social media account to raise their credibility. And this is a game that actually can also help health workers to show people that sometimes there's a lot of false information about good health and certainly about finding a way to get vaccines for the COVID crisis. So the reason we show this slide is because there are many gamers in India, and the whole area of video games is so very, very important. And isn't it strange? Here's one particular video game that is made to try and help people suffering during this awful COVID crisis, which we hope with the vaccine from Oxford University, from AstraZeneca, from Pfizer, and also from India's main vaccine manufacturers, we will see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here is an interesting Indian company called Super Daily. And what does Super Daily do? This digitizes India's milk delivery system. And how does that work? Well, Super Daily is a digital milk delivery service in India, and the startup received some initial seed investment a few years ago to develop the initiative, and the idea is to provide fresh milk to consumers across Mumbai and across India. It uses a direct-to-consumer model, and the team finds milk with no additives from local farms, because in India, many times milk that goes on sale is often watered down or tampered with to extend its life. So customers order via the Super Daily mobile app or WhatsApp sites, and the offering includes additional products such as bread, eggs, paratha, butter and coconut water, and the delivery only costs for less than half a cent. So this is just a few rupees per delivery, but this is just an interesting way in which somebody has developed a digital service. This is almost like the tiffin carriers, but it's a tiffin for milk, and Super Daily is an Indian company making some good progress with it. I just heard today that of all the places in India looking for an affordable home for a home purchase, Kolkata just became named as the most affordable market of all of India's 7 major cities. So I'll tell you the top 4, or should I say the 4 cities where it's most affordable. Number 1, Kolkata. Number 2, Hyderabad. Number 3, Pune. Number 4, Chennai. And number 9, Mumbai. Everyone knows the problems in Mumbai. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, this next very interesting is, let's just go to it. Elon Musk and his Tesla electric cars is such a huge success. The Tesla company saw its shares rise by 500% so far just this year, and got Elon Musk to be the 2nd wealthiest man in the world after Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. And this is an interesting company we thought we'd show you. It's a Chinese electric car manufacturer called NIO, and they unveiled a special electric battery pack with cell-to-pack technology. Just a couple of weeks ago, it was launched. And this basically offers energy capacity that was only achieved before in a Tesla car, where there's a fixed battery in the car that you have to charge all the time. This particular battery pack will enable 615 kilometers at 360 miles on a single charge, and you'll be able to simply swap the battery for a new battery at the NIO outlets. And this might be something in the future, as all the world is going to have to choose between electric cars rather than diesel or petrol-driven cars. But maybe in the same way as you get batteries for your radio or for your games, maybe these batteries now will be replaceable. And when we, in the next 5 to 10 years, think of electric cars, this might be something. Those of you that are in the world of electronics and certainly battery research, the whole quest and the search for batteries that give better power in the modern era, where we're going to need more and more battery power rather than electric power. This is just an idea to hopefully stimulate your thinking. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Now, Amazon have been involved in doing some really amazing inventions and innovation. And Amazon usually take 4 years before they announce an innovation. And here's one that they brought in to improve safety and security in businesses and in public space. So what is this? This was just launched 5 weeks ago. It saw Amazon announce what is called Amazon One. It's a contactless scanning device that uses the palm of your hand to identify an individual. The device can be used for payment, for loyalty cards, or providing identification for restricted areas. And Amazon claims that the technology protects privacy, as an image of the palm of your hand can't easily be used to identify an individual. So this is being piloted in 2 shops of Amazon's in Seattle. But just think about this, and particularly at a time where we have to be much more aware of security. Many things that Amazon have developed, and this is Amazon's contactless palm recognition technology. Interesting. And if you think about it, if you've got any ideas, remember we've got a Q&A to send in your question, and we'd be happy to answer it. Let's go to the next slide. And here's something interesting, a big new development from the well-known Indian bank ICICI. And ICICI are now offering trade finance services through WhatsApp. Who would have thought that WhatsApp, which was an application that was developed by a young guy from the Ukraine who was living on the floor of an apartment in Silicon Valley, and Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, found out about him, and from nothing, he loved WhatsApp, and he paid this guy, Mark Zuckerberg, paid this guy $19 billion to buy WhatsApp. And of course, so many people in India use WhatsApp. But here's a bank, a very sophisticated, successful bank that launched a new feature that lets business owners access trade finance services via WhatsApp. Most unusual for something like banking, and particularly when you think of sometimes how difficult it is for banking services to be done with customer ease in India. Customers can create fixed deposits, pay utility bills, access trade finance services through this WhatsApp app. And the new feature enables firms to view information on customer ID, import-export code, limit availability of credit facilities, and the status of inward remittances and the history of inward remittances on the go. And this is a really interesting ICICI WhatsApp banking service. It's the 25th WhatsApp services that they're bringing in. So hats off to ICICI. Maybe there are some banks in West Bengal that could also do this. I'm not sure if any are doing it right now, but there's an idea for the future for those of you in financial services, banking, and also making things easy for consumers. Right, let's go to the next slide. And how many of you are familiar with this tablet called Barocca? It actually can help you get over feeling flu or getting a cold. And Barocca actually used a TikTok. Now we know TikTok is banned in India for very good reasons. But what they did was, in an effort to convert occasional users to daily users of Barocca, this was something that happened in Vietnam, where Barocca created a special dance on TikTok. Now, of course, there are platforms in India that are similar to TikTok, but they basically created a dance challenge, and the pharmaceutics giant that owns Barocca, Bayer from Germany, positioned this dissolvable flavored vitamin as the solution for when you're feeling tired in the afternoon, and one that could alleviate signs of stress and fatigue. And what they did was they created a dance using a hashtag, and it was incredibly successful. In the first days of the campaign, Barocca videos got nearly 250, 250 million video views, higher than the benchmark estimate, and the campaign saw sales increasing by 230%. So the reason I show you this is you can take a video like a YouTube, or you can take something that is a viral video online that maybe might use music only, but link that to a product, and that might be something that gets a whole new consumer interest in your product. Let's go to the next slide. Now, when you think of Thumbs Up, the old Indian drink, or Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, you don't necessarily think of one of these drinks that helps you to go to sleep. Well, interestingly enough, Pepsi had just released just 5 weeks ago, because with the COVID crisis, more people have been suffering from not being able to get to sleep. They're worried about the pandemic and can't sleep, and there are higher levels of sleeplessness during the pandemic. So Pepsi announced the launch of Drift Well, and this is a beverage to help consumers unwind before they go to bed. And the idea came after the Pepsi CEO held an internal employee competition. And the competition was, what can Pepsi create to make a new drink? Well, they all came up internally with a name, Drift Well. It contains 200 milligrams of L-theanine and 10% of the daily magnesium intake, 2 ingredients to combat stress, and the sleep aid drink is now Pepsi's fastest Pepsi product to hit the market. Who would have thought that a soft drink company could make a drink as a sleep aid to help people get some sleep during the COVID crisis? Is this the next normal, or is this the new normal, or is this something that we should make sure that after a heavy cricket test, we should maybe give Sourav Ganguly or Shubman Gill or Nitish Rana something that they can use to get some sleep after a heavy cricket test? Let's go to the next video. Now, talking about, let's have a look at clothing products. There's an American shoemaker called Saucony. They make athletic shoes, and they decided to release a limited edition running shoe that's designed to look like avocado on toast. Who would think of a shoe that looks like food? Well, this avocado toast has got a textured suede upper in avocado green and brown leather with red specks in the lining to represent red pepper flakes. I mean, it's incredible. Vindaloo flakes inside the sneaker design. And the sneaker, which the label calls Saucamole, like guacamole, across the heel of the shoe, sells for $130 US. Now, I think this is, there's such a huge market for sports shoes, for sneakers. It is an amazingly huge market. It's not just Nike or New Balance or Adidas, but here is Saucony realizing if they wanted to have a product that maybe could be successful, make it look like avocado on toast. What do you think of that? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, no problem. Then I think let's go to the next slide. Not this one, the next one. So to finish off today, I thought we'd finish with something really amazing for all of those of you watching that like beer. How would you like to be and go and stay in a beer-centric hotel where you can wake up inside a brewery? Well, a Scottish beer company called BrewDog, very popular in the UK, have opened the Doghouse, a beer-centric hotel that lets its guests wake up inside a brewery. It follows a successful crowdfunding campaign. The hotel, which actually is in America, has got an interactive beer museum. It's got a spa with beer treatments. There's access to limited beers. And while this is going on, the regular rooms are not expensive. There's a beer tap in the room. And there's also a special presidential suite, $2,000 a night, with a bathtub filled with beer. So all those of you who love beer, what do you think? Should Ola open up a hotel in India that is for beer lovers? Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those of you who've been watching, it's always such a pleasure to be able to be with you here in India. And let's go to the next slide. Can we go to the next slide there, please? There we are. So as you can see, this is very important. What you can see, you can sell. Jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai. Bahut sahi hai, Next slide, please. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much. My name is Ralph Simon from London, a big, big fan of INFOCOM and ABP, and a big, big fan of India with my very good friend. Here's my great friend, Arijit Singh. Let's see if we can get that picture in the screen. Oh, let's see. There we are. There's Arijit, one of the greatest artists in the world. What a voice. Oh my God. We know why all of those women love him. Thank you, Raki.
Yeah. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much, Ralph, for joining us from all the way from London. It's been an honor to have you with us at INFOCOM 2020. We look forward to having you again someday soon. We move on to the next session, which is the leadership keynote on the future of customer experience. And our keynote speaker is Mr. Prashanjit Roy, who is the Senior Executive Vice President and CMO, Entity NetMagic. Mr. Prashanjit Roy has more than 2.5 decades of corporate experience on the business side, spanning across several multinationals in India and abroad. He is an accomplished and dynamic strategic marketing and strategy specialist covering a wide spectrum of industry sectors, including financials, telecom, manufacturing, information technology, startups, and other verticals. He is the winner of several industry awards like Most Iconic Marketing Professional, Most Influential Marketing Technology Leader, CMO of the Year, Enterprise IT CMO, Asia's Top 50 Brand Leaders, amongst many others. He has an advanced degree in engineering and business management and is also a postgraduate certificate course in modern information systems from IIT Mumbai. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Prashanjit Roy, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, there's the Q&A box. In case you have any questions, kindly post them in the box so that we can take them at the end of the session. I now hand over the session to Mr. Prashanjit Roy, sir, for the keynote on the future of customer experience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Raki. Am I audible, Raki?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that was really a very passionate presentation by Ralph. Thanks for it. Is my presentation up, Raki? Okay, yeah, thanks. Hope all of you are doing fine and keeping yourselves safe as we navigate through the phase which is unprecedented in our lifetimes. I'm really privileged to speak to you on a theme that is very close and dear to me, the future of CX in a B2B environment. I would like to set the ball rolling with a very short video. Would request if the video could be played, please.
Most crucially, it's made everyday activities easier and faster. But these improved functions, though they're convenient, have provoked a new need for finding fulfillment in brand experiences. In many ways, though, technology can also address that need. Empowered by automation, people are shifting their attention away from traditional brand interactions. Artificial intelligence takes care of routine tasks so they can focus on more meaningful activities. People are becoming more than just customers. They want to be contributors, able to participate as partners with companies they engage with. But that doesn't mean they'll agree with everything companies do. Energized by technology, markets of individual customers can easily band together to form hyper-opinionated mobs, directly affecting businesses. That's why it's crucial for businesses to stand for something. Customers are becoming less concerned with product value and more concerned with the company's dedication to their core values. Customer behavior is shifting rapidly. It's up to executives to evolve with them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Customer behavior is shifting rapidly and evolving, as we just saw in the video. Here are some questions for all of us to ponder and hopefully find acceptable answers to by the end of this session. Is customer experience important in the B2B world? If yes, then what are the challenges the business face in delivering great customer experience to the business customers? And finally, how can CX be delivered despite all these challenges? We will try to unravel this as we move along. Here are some data for all of you to consider. As per the Harvard Business Review, cost of acquiring new customers is actually 5x to 25x of retaining existing customers. Number two, improving customer retention by just 5% increases profits anywhere between 25% and 95%. And more than 85% of customers are willing to pay more for a superior customer experience. 30% to 50% customers would increase the purchase frequency if they face a great CX experience. And finally, Forrester found out that over a period of 5 years, companies that focused on CX delivered a CAGR of 17%, while others which are less focused delivered just a paltry 3%. So the gap is enormous. Can I go to the next slide, please? So B2B companies have an average customer experience score of less than 50%, which is far lower than around 65 to 80% for the B2C companies. In fact, a Forrester study reveals that only 9% of the companies feel that they've created a superior customer experience to their competitors. And this represents a huge competitive opportunity for all of us to tap into. B2B customers are also individuals, and the superior CX in the B2C space is what they want to see replicated in their B2B experience. 80% of B2B buyers now expect, not wish or ask, but really expect the same buying experience as B2C customers, such as companies to interact with them in the real-time scenario. Meanwhile, a quarter wants to see the checkout and delivery speed they enjoy in the B2C online buying experience replicated into the B2B interactions with the companies. So that's the changing landscape. Can I move to the next slide, please? So again, if we come back to the main critical fundamental question, if CX is so critical and has such a positive impact on business, then what is stopping B2B companies from making it happen? Let's also unravel that as we move along. Can I go to the next slide, please? Let us look at the buyer and the influencers. In the B2B scenario, there's rarely one buyer. The average B2B transaction involves over 5 buyers. And the customer experience for each of these people can affect their likelihood to promote or block a sale, greatly increasing complexity in the overall relationship, a fundamental difference from B2C. Then the buyer and end user are usually different people. Like, for example, the procurement officer is really the end user of the products and services they procure. The buyer and the user have very little personal connection beyond organized feedback about the product and services. And lastly, the buying process is clinical, and the drivers of it are very different than a B2C. Can we go to the next slide, please? So in a B2B, the group of buyers usually has specific roles assigned to each person in the group. Like, for example, the accounting department controls the budget. The operation department controls the fulfillment. The IT does the integration. The C-suite invariably makes the final decision. So the challenge for the supplier company is to present a holistic brand across all these touch points and channels, but to do it in a way that is relevant for each player. For these reasons, B2B customer journeys tend to look like several parallel streams connected to key decisions or use cases, rather than a simple path to purchase in a B2C scenario. And friends, we really need to understand that and appreciate this, how this is very different from B2C. Can you go to the next slide, please? So B2B relationships involve long-term service arrangements, subscription services, upgrades, or continuous supply of consumables. If not, then B2B customers still viewed as accounts to be nurtured. In some cases, a good overall experience can overcome a mediocre product, and a poor experience can erode the advantage of a superior product considerably. So B2B customer experience typically extends well beyond the time of purchase. And this is a fundamental thing we need to be cognizant of. Can I go to the next slide? So we had a lot of theory. Let me change gears. Let me now take up a use case for you to be able to understand it much better. So while FedEx is available to individual consumers, the company profits mostly from a B2B revenue, delivering shipments for hundreds of thousands of businesses every day. As of 2018, FedEx was in the 12th place for the most financially successful B2B companies in the world. The companies didn't make this far by accident. FedEx is committed to customer experience, transparency, and open communication. One of the best ways a company can communicate with its customers is to close the loop or follow up with the customers to resolve the issues, give support, and respond to feedback. We are talking about the turnaround time. So according to Customer Gauge, companies that close the loop within 48 hours and 2 weeks see a minimum of 5.5% increase in the customer retention. This is really a very significant step, given that for 5% increase of customer retention, companies can increase profits by more than 25%. FedEx benefits from its good internal and external communications. One notable example is how the company recently reworked its newsletter production and execution. This illustrates an internal communication issue between the content teams, FedEx marketing team, and customer service. The company's decreased new content output from 80 to 20%, distributing the work between the two teams. Every level of the marketing department now participates in the creation and recycling of the content, leading to better internal communication around the newsletter, and in turn, better external communication with the customers. We see this kind of effective internal communication at FedEx in other areas as well. For example, the president of FedEx Canada, Lisa Lisson, frequently engages with her employees, crediting them with most of the successful ideas. Occasionally dropping in on the sales calls, Lisa is very familiar with work at the front line. Her participation and involvement in the employees at all levels boosts the morale, increases employee engagement, something that in turn influences productivity. This is very, very critical. I'll deal with it deeply in the subsequent slides. So FedEx delivers exceptional CX and continuously seeks new best practices for the company. Unafraid of making large-scale changes to the content, operations, and data sharing, FedEx is way ahead of the curve when it comes to communicating with the customers. That's a case study of FedEx, which I thought would highlight what I'm going to talk about in this. Can I go to the next slide, please? Another critical component is the play of technology. And this is a very, very critical component of all CX initiatives. As per Gartner, the top 5 emerging technologies which plays a very critical role in CX are the AI, customer assistants and chatbots, the entire omnichannel customer experience, the event-driven application architecture, and the IoT. And on the other side, we have something which is called Experience Data Platform, which is nothing but which gives you a 360-degree view of the customer experience and the sentiments with your brand. So the whole play of EDP can be classified into 3 bins. The first is Engage, which is basically data ingestion, either through solicited and unsolicited feedback, operational data, and observed behavior. The second one is Analyzing, the advanced data analytics, which is the play of AI, ML, and NLP. ML is machine learning, NLP is natural language processing. The real-time third is the ACT, which is the real-time dashboards for frontline execution as well as for the C-level suites. So one can generate a more personalized experience with this platform when the data you gather with the interaction is scooped back into the platform and the virtual cycle begins. Can I go to the next slide, please? Let us also realize and understand how COVID-19 has played a critical part. Because when we're talking about the new normal, we're talking about against the backdrop of the pandemic, we cannot ignore this particular aspect. So the recent shifts in the consumer behavior and expectations brought about by the pandemic are forcing companies to change how they connect with and serve customers. Those who cannot adjust to the next normal or the new normal will quickly be left behind. Navigating this uncertain middle ground, the constantly shifting conditions, and the unknown outcomes and the timeframes requires a balance of sensitivity and agility. The crisis is teaching us we should already know that we must understand and empathize first and sell second. The pandemic has thrown the spotlight on the human side of B2B customer experience. People remember the interactions they had with the company based on how they felt. And this is going to serve in very good stead when the pandemic is over. They will not forget those companies who has really helped them out during those crises. As per McKinsey, there is now a proven formula of executing customer experience transformations. It comprises specific steps up to 3 building blocks: a really defined aspiration, an agile transformational approach, and a thoughtful deployment of new capabilities, particularly advanced analytics. I will cover this in detail in a subsequent slide. Can I go to the next slide, please? Let us now change gears and look at it from a different lens. What about the experience of those who keep the business in business? What I'm referring to is your employees. In fact, your customer's experience actually begins from the inside out with your employees. We are seeing organizations put more focus and energy on the employee experience. empowering them to work efficiently and effectively. At the end of the day, they are the building blocks. One should not forget that. If you do not pay heed to the EX, what is going to happen? The disengaged and unhappy employees drag down the morale, productivity, and even the bottom line of the company. So what will the organizations do in such a scenario? Two things. First, create a culture that empowers communication and enables collaboration. And second, celebrate and connect with the employees on a regular basis. Can I go to the next slide, please? I'm now going into the core of the presentation, okay? And here we're going to talk about is a super CX journey. So planning and implementing a super customer experience journey, which is on several pillars. CX is critical. CX has some challenges. Let's find ways to overcome them. And let's look at what are the main pillars of a CX in a B2B environment. Can I go to the next slide, please? So the first pillar is on commitment and consistency. Being enthusiastic about satisfying customers and making them feel valued. Providing an omnichannel experience, customers interact with companies through multiple channels in today's time, often to solve the same problem. And you need to be present in all those channels, and there has to be homogeneity in all those channels. Create online portal, smartphone apps, tablet apps that will allow connected information on customers and provide complete view of customer activity. Customers' experience starts with employee experience. When employees are engaged and empowered, they naturally want to provide better service to customers, as we have seen in the last slide. Can I go to the next slide, please? The second pillar, fulfillment and relevance, which is understanding and delivering on customer needs. Easier said than done. Customer demands are frequently diverse and increasingly demanding. More customized, more cost-effective, quicker turnaround, everything you can think of. Make sure the experience you offer to customers is relevant to them. What do they need? What do they expect? How do they want to communicate, shop, and interact with you? How do they want to access information? Sometimes we forget this fundamental. We keep on going with what we think is right instead of hearing them out. B2B companies are generally most successful when they gain an understanding of a specific customer's most pressing issues and needs from the very outset. Determine that the problem is important enough that the customer will commit to a solution, and from the design solution will gain consistency across the customer's buying group. Can I go to the next slide, please? So the third pillar, seamless and transparency. Across all virtual B2B markets, the top driver for overall satisfaction and loyalty is the ease of doing business with the supplier. Seamlessness is synonymous with simple, convenient, and hassle-free. Remove the friction as order readers. Set up the right expectations to avoid disappointment or nasty surprises. Yeah, sure. Build trust at every interaction and acknowledge mistakes and be open about how you're handling them. Can I go to the next slide, please? 36% customers want efficiency in the purchase process. 43% have said they want quick solution to a problem, and 37% chose speed of responsiveness. So the key things are timely response, delivery, and resolution. Can I go to the next slide, please? Proactive companies are those capable of anticipating customer needs and desires and strive to resolve issues before the customer feels the pain. It is easier for companies to be proactive if they're good at fulfilling customer needs and can foresee potential customer needs and pain points. Easier said than done, but we have to be there. Time is customers' greatest resource. As we become accustomed to getting everything faster, instant responses, real-time updates, same day and even next hour delivery, we will have to be cognizant of the fast-moving times and the early response to the customer demands. Can I go to the next slide, please? Continually seeking to improve the B2B customer experience. Review. Customer needs, behavior, and attitudes can change anytime, as can threats from competition and influence such as technology and legislation. That is where the react comes in. More receptive customers to evolution are those that are agile and open to applying design thinking. That is what reinvent comes in. And those willing to reinvent how customers interact with the company to re-engineer and transform the customer journey, that is where the play of redesign comes in. So the entire 4 cycles of evolution has to be imbibed by each company who wants to be at the peak of CX in a B2B. Can I go to the next slide, please? So 70% of customers are willing to spend more with the companies if they provide great customer support. Average B2B customer uses 6 different channels, such as in-person, reps, e-commerce sites over the course of the decision-making journey. And almost a third of the customers say that they will stop doing business with a brand they love after one bad CX. Frightening, but true. Can I go to the next slide, please? So a good CX aspiration delivers on company purpose and a brand promise. Companies that can translate aspirations to expected outcome values by defining the specific changes in customer behavior they expect to see. Once they have prioritized the experience with the greatest potential impact on customer behavior, CX leaders identify the internal processes and technology capabilities they need to substantially remanaging them. Customer experience is a competitive advantage in the new normal. Only by committing to the 3 building blocks of a CX can companies expect to emerge from the crisis with a sustainable advantage over their competitors. Can I go to the penultimate slide? Yeah. So in summary, I'd like to call out some key aspects that would help in good state the B2B companies in the new normal. 1, CX is the single most differentiator for all businesses in years to come. 2, enhancing CX wide perception and digital experience to end technology stack and platform. 3, emotional engagement among employees produce high customer engagement. And the last one, always drive the customer experience quotient for positive business outcomes. Can I go to the next slide, please? I would like to close the session with one idea of Choji Kuramoto-san. Choji Kuramoto-san was the CEO of Uniqlo. In his CEO cabin on one of his walls, this quote was distinctly visible for many decades. And this has really sunk with me. This is ancient merchant wisdom in Japan on CX as EX, so relevant in today's time and would be in the future also. So 3 basic foundations of good business. Stores exist for customer, that is customer centricity. Stores prosper with store staff, that is employee experience. And third, stores perish with store managers, that is leadership and management matters. Universal truth so well depicted. So thanks a ton for giving me a patient hearing. I'm truly grateful for being such a wonderful audience. I'm leaving behind my coordinates. Would be happy to discuss further on this subject or anything of mutual interest. Take good care of yourself, stay safe and stay healthy. Thanks once again. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that keynote. And thank you for joining us today at INFOCOM 2020. We are very grateful to have you with us. We now move into the next session, which is the New Age panel. And this is a panel discussion on lessons from the abnormal for the New Age leaders. And let me introduce you to the panelists. The panelists are, the first panelist is Mr. Sanjay Chatterjee, who is the director of the board and CTO of Ideation Technology Solutions. He's an engineer with experience from Tata Motors and Tata Technologies. And he started his entrepreneurial journey 13 years ago, founding Ideation Technology Solutions, Ideal Analytics Solutions, and startups in the areas of healthcare, genomics called Biogenic, and environment tech called Enviom Research, developing software products and solutions in the areas of analytics and data science, IoT, and enterprise mobility. Mr. Chatterjee is also the chair of NASSCOM Special Interest Group of Analytics. He has received his MTech from IIT Kharagpur. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Sanjay Chatterjee. The next panelist is Mr. Anmol Singh Narula, who's the Director, JIS Group Educational Initiatives. Mr. Anmol Singh Narula focuses on innovation, technology, and marketing at JIS. He also facilitates investments into early stage startups through the family office. He has graduated from Rollins College, Florida, USA, with a dual degree in international business and philosophy. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Anmol Singh Narula. And our third panelist is Mr. Sachin Thakkar, who is the founder and CEO of AAA Solutions Private Limited, a commerce graduate from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, and a PGDBA from IBS Hyderabad. Mr. Thakkar has been instrumental in spearheading the AAA Solutions operations and providing a strategic direction since its inception. Mr. Thakkar has pioneered software solutions for the retirement benefit fund industry in India. Under his leadership, the company has witnessed geographical expansion across major cities in India and also introduced leading-edge IT and support solutions for HR department, including payroll and retirement benefit funds, finance and treasury departments of major companies. Prior to his entrepreneurial journey, he had a stint in debt markets with a leading investment banker. He has been an active member of NASSCOM and has been instrumental in bringing together the industry and startup community on a common platform. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Sachin Thakkar. And our chairperson for the session is Mr. Nirupam Chaudhary, who is the Regional Director East, NASSCOM. Mr. Nirupam Chaudhary has more than 2 decades of experience in information technology and related market intelligence. He has worked on a plethora of projects on new product ideas, business planning, go-to-market initiatives, and management development in companies like IDC, TCS, AMI Partners, etc. He is personally enthusiastic about spreading the potential of Eastern India as an IT destination in the country and helping emerging companies to grow in the region. He has done his BTech in Electronics and Instrumentation from Jadavpur University and PGDBA in Information Systems. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Nirupam Chaudhary. Now, before I hand over the session, another reminder to the delegates that there's a Q&A box. In case you have pertinent and relevant questions, kindly put them in the box so that we can attend to them at the end of the session. And I now hand over the session to you, Mr. Nirupam Chaudhary, the panel discussion on lessons from the abnormal for the new age leaders. Over to you, Nirupam.
Thank you so much, Raki. It is really a pleasure. And I was listening to Prasenjit. He was talking about customer experience and how it really matters in these times and how we need to be innovative, right? It's very crucial. You did a wonderful job of introducing the panel. And really happy to see INFOCOM in this format, really. We have been attending INFOCOM for so many years face-to-face. And I think this year, due to this virtual platform, so many guys are logging in from different parts of the world, and they can actually log into the sessions and listen to what all speakers have to say. I think this is exactly the new normal. So we really have passed through some traumatic times in the last 6-7 months, especially in the beginning when the lockdown really started. And it was almost overnight. I mean, you see, we didn't get much time to prepare also. Many of us who actually shifted to work from home kind of environments. So it didn't give us much time, but thanks to agility of some of the companies, especially I talk about IT industry per se, most folks didn't face too much problems. Of course, we stakeholders were there to support, government was there to support. From NASSCOM, we had actively supported and given do's and don'ts, best practices, and assisted admin teams, etc., while they're transitioning. Still, there were a lot of learnings. And I think our panel today is actually lessons from the abnormal for new age leaders. And I really am, it's a pleasure to have such an elite panel with me, with Sanjoy, Anmol and Sachin. Sanjoy comes from a background which is basically he's working a lot on services projects. He works with World Bank, he works with the government sector a lot. Specific to services, he's doing a lot of amazing stuff and also in the analytics. So we'll get a lot of perspectives from him in terms of how he dealt with the situation and what his learnings were. We'll come to those. Anmol specifically is from education line, so we'll hear a lot about how transformation has happened for his industry. Personally, what were some of his learnings, and also how the industry is coping, how the stakeholders, like you're talking about students, faculties, we're talking about parents, how they are coping up with this new normal and how they're approaching. What is the approach? We'll actually listen from Anmol. And of course, Sachin is also from the IT background. He's working on very interesting products and also pension funds, as you heard Raki already told. And he's dealing with products. So we have an interesting mix of services, education sector and products. So we'll get all the perspective and you will get to hear some amazing stories from each one of my panels. Before I go ahead and actually ask the first question to all three, I'll say at the end of the day, these times, if we go back to simple, drawing board, it is to do with people, process, and technology in these times, and about verticals who are actually, thought ahead of time. And I'm sure there are certain verticals like hospitality or retail or certain kind of services which did really suffer because of obvious reasons in this pandemic time. But there are certain other verticals, like say healthcare sector, and of course IT and I'm not even considering these sectors who actually did much better in this times. And some of the leaders have really shown their mettle and taken some tough decisions, some fast decisions, and being very, very agile when they were dealing with the crisis. So at the end of the day, we all have to deal with our people. I mean, I'm talking about people who in our own companies, as well as you are dealing with our customers, our stakeholders. We have to make sure the processes are proper. If processes are proper, if we are following the best practices, I'm sure things will not go too wrong. And tech is here to support us, right? I mean, all the platform we are using right now today in INFOCOM also, it shows how it is very much possible to interact and be in touch with your right audience in whatever scenario you want, right? So we have about 40 minutes. I will start off with a question to all three. First, I'll go to Sanjoy, and then to Sachin, and then to Anmol. My first question to all three of you, and I can take maybe 3-4 minutes to address that, not more than that. Sanjoy, to you is, the question is, when we in March, when suddenly the pandemic happened and gradually there were transitions and you faced those problems of shifting and taking some very tough decisions also, I'm sure. What has been the experience so far in these months? What were some of the learnings? Because you are a role model for many of the upcoming leaders. Many emerging companies look up to you, and you're also working very closely with startups. So what has been your experience in ideation? Let me start with that.
Thanks. Yeah. So even my experience in this COVID was enormous. I mean, probably one of its kind, because in the March, we had started a very big transformational process, for ideation as a company after 13 years of journey. We were about to finish a merger and, with a very big company in US, Vision A's. So that's, we're just about to complete in the March end. So that was a challenge because of the COVID. And luckily, the experience was, even during the COVID period, we completed that process. So we'll be having some announcement very soon, but that's a good experience because even the scenario in India, in California, it was like, pretty complex. And despite of that, so additional to the normal COVID situation where you have to take care of your customers, revenue, cash flow. On top of that, there's like a big process of, M&A. So altogether it was complex, but luckily we did it very successfully. So that was an unique experience. And the other part of it, about our work, the way we used to do work earlier also, mostly everything, all our resources and all our, infrastructure being in, in cloud. So they were already having that flexibility of working from any place on earth, and our employees were being distributed that way. So that really didn't affect much from an operational or from the delivery point of view. And the third experience was about the new customer acquisition. Probably in last 2 years, we haven't get that traction. In these 4 years that we have got, 4 months, sorry. So that's a huge area opportunities that has opened up, which is unbelievable. Probably, as I said, last 2 years we didn't have that much of, in short period, so much of opportunities. So mixed, all positive, and it's like a great learning, coping up with the new scenario. And already we have accepted this scenario and doing well.
A follow-up question to that. I'm sure, you know the kind of other problems which are associated when a lot of our employees are actually working from home. You understand the cybersecurity concerns and when you are logging into secure systems. So how did you deal with that? I understand that you also have this background of, and so what is your suggestion, or what is your mantra to other companies also who are working in similar lines? And of course, we heard of several instances of attacks already happening in some corners. So what was your experience and how you dealt with it?
Well, we had prior experience because we already had people from France. They used to have this kind of infrastructure already in place. And many of our customers being in healthcare in US, as you know, because of this PHA data and all. So this kind of a security and working from remote, that infrastructure was already placed. Like sometimes you use Citrix or AWS with all those, remote desktop, and even some of the workstations were completely in the cloud. So now what we are doing it, we have already allowing people to work from home using secure VPN connections. And of course, like the cloud being already our DevOps infrastructure. So that really nowadays very standard, and it is provided by almost all biggies. Be it Microsoft, be it Amazon, be it Google. So any standard can be adopted.
And what has been upskilling? Have you faced some challenges in terms of training and development of employees, the HR challenges, or anything specific related to trade? We have several platforms. Like recently, NASCOM also came up with this Future Skills Prime, where you can easily log into the secure system and you can actually upskill. So, and I'm sure in the line that you are in and the kind of project that you deal with requires high-end skills, and it requires continuously updating your employees, your workforce in different parameters. So how are you doing that in this time?
Yeah, some area we got some effect, especially for those urban projects in some of the areas in remote locations. For example, in Tanzania, that project got delayed by a few months, but again they have picked up. So that way we had some challenges because all those projects requires a lot of data survey on the ground level through partners. So all those partner companies in multiple countries. So that was a bit difficult to arrange them, mobilize them and all. And also to kind of shift from the way earlier the data used to get collected, shifting to a new way of collecting the data, mostly from using technology and all. So those adoption was a learning, of course, but yes, those were the few challenges primarily we faced in data collection area.
Okay, I'll come back to you for some very interesting examples for how you dealt with different verticals and the customers, but that's later. Let me go over to Sachin now. Sachin, we understand being a product company, it was never easy, right? And being a company, we were interfacing a lot with some of the top concerns in India in the area that you are dealing with. So what has been your experience, if you sum up, maybe in 3-4 minutes, in terms of how has been your journey in these last 6-7 months, and tell us about 3 or 4 takeaways for our audience here. How you coped up with tough scenarios, and maybe some innovations that you did for yourself and the team.
Right. Nirupam, that might take a little longer than 3-4 minutes.
Sure.
If you can allow
I think that would be an interesting story for you.
There were in fact a lot of tough lessons learned. And the first and foremost lesson, I would say that we should bow down to Mother Nature, pleading guilty of actually plundering and ravaging her to the extent that we have to see this day to day. Okay. While we learn a lot of patience from Mother Nature, we also got a message that if you fool around too much, you will get back in million folds, not only to this generation, but even our future generations are going to suffer because of that. While we are trying to make a positive out of everything, that's why we have named it app-normal. So we are calling it new normal. Okay. And we'll definitely pick up the positives from here. But if you see, it is definitely abnormal. Wearing masks and social distancing is something which is not normal. Okay. Although we might have to follow it for some time. So what needs to be done is organization wise, we need to sensitize people on this particular topic. That if we are talking on this subject, why at first place did it happen? Okay. Each individual, and I speak of organization because organization is a part of society. And like in school, they teach students and they sensitize the students on various topics. It is our responsibility as the leaders in the organization to also sensitize people on these topics. Each individual can be ready for some more catastrophe which might be awaiting maybe in a couple of years. Who knows? Okay. So in that scenario, an individual has to think that in this kind of a life, what is important and what is not. That's the first part. Second part, if an individual has to think so, the leaders of the organization too have to think what is important for the organization and what is not. What is the purpose of the organization that they are fulfilling? Okay. I'll compassionate leaders, authentic leaders will communicate well in this scenario, will communicate deep into the organization, cutting down all the hierarchies, okay, and maybe accepting their vulnerabilities, that this thing happened, and in fact, as a leader, we also do not have an answer in certain cases, okay, lay open their vulnerabilities to their colleagues so that maybe a creative approach or creative strategy can be built up by consolidating ideas, by leveraging collective wisdom of all our colleagues. I think that is one role that a leader needs to play. Third point is only a team can pass through this difficult time. Yes, you heard me right. Only a team can pass through this difficult time. Now, for me, team is actually trust, empathy, adaptation, meaningfulness. I repeat, for me, team is trust, empathy, adaptation, and meaningfulness. Only when you have trust and empathy shared amongst your colleagues, okay, and you give them some kind of meaningful or some purpose for which they are working, you will see that they will be quick to adapt to the situation. Imagine the entire organization, if these values are imbibed into the organization, and imagine the entire organization as one individual. You will, the trust will be the legs on which the organization will run or walk. Empathy will be the hands with which they will help others. Adaptation will be the mind of the organization, where they'll be agile enough to adapt. And meaningfulness will be the heart of the organization, where they would know why does that organization exist. Okay. Having said that, I believe teamwork will make the dream work, but it is not the team that we have been talking about, a bundle of people doing projects together, but the team that this is a new acronym for me. Okay. The fourth item is digitization or digital transformation is now a necessity. I'm sure you would have heard this joke being circulated in April, March, where there was a quiz. It asked that who led the transformation, digital transformation in your organization? Was it the CEO, was it the CTO, or was it COVID-19? So obviously it was ticked as COVID-19. Okay. Now in fact, in April, March, most of even the largest organizations would have answered COVID-19. Okay. But if today we still have the answer as COVID-19, that would not be a very nice situation to actually see. Okay. So CTOs, the CEOs, and COOs will have to take lead and do this digital transformation primarily on 2 counts. Okay. Another important thing I would like to mention here is that when we talk of stakeholders, there are multiple stakeholders. There are shareholders, there are government agencies, there are employees, and there are customers broadly. But in this situation, the entire focus would be on the employee experience and on the customer experience. Okay, your internal customer, as well as for the time being, shareholders and other government agencies, statutory bodies can take rest. Don't take me otherwise, but I'm saying our immediate focus should be on the employee part and the customer experience. Okay. Now on the employee part, there are they use a hardware to basically deliver services, and they use some tools. In this remote working environment, they will require the collaboration tools. Now I'll share our example. We had some 5 to 6 different collaboration tools which we were using in the old normal, where, for example, we had Zendesk for ticketing, we had Jira for projects, we have Pipedrive for CRM, we had WebEx for remote support, etc. But in this time, we really felt that these were not sufficing, and we kind of explored a few more tools which will at least help us collaborate across the departments and across the organization. We evaluated few vendors and we found Zoho One. Although I am not canvassing for Zoho One, but I am a satisfied customer of Zoho One for the past 6 months. It has helped us to work in this remote environment with much ease, because we have seen the month of April and May, which perhaps we will not be able to forget. And we have also seen the subsequent months from June till date.
So,
Okay.
Sachin, just interrupting, did
Yeah.
you start evaluating post-COVID, or you were actually already thinking before COVID to actually do this transformation?
No, it was a
Or it was
post-COVID
after
reaction. It was a post-COVID reaction because earlier when we were physically present in the office, all these 4-5 tools were also sufficing. But in remote environment, it was becoming a drag. That is where we explored this and we found it extremely helpful.
Excellent.
Not only for internal, even supporting our clients outside. There are 2-3 business apps in Zoho One which can help us support, or we are in fact regularly supporting them. Even the projects that we do, we can share some screens of Zoho projects with our clients so that they are able to see the real-time situation or the status of the project. Having said that, the other part was the hardware part. Now we had 50% CPUs. We were not perhaps I would say as lucky as or as prepared as Sanjay was, where most of the things were in place. Maybe with some variations they could adjust. We had 50% CPUs, 50% laptops, and it was not possible to pass on the CPUs to individual employees' space. Hence, we explored some cloud facilities, and then we shortlisted AWS after a couple of months of struggle. Again, to tell you, we're quite happy with AWS. There is a flexibility in terms of work and time, and in terms of scalability. Onboarding today is not a challenge. We can onboard anybody in a couple of hours' time. We don't have to worry on the licenses front. We don't have to worry on the hardware procurement terms where when 3 or 4 people were supposed to join, we had to bother all that, and it was quite a task. Now, all that has become quite easy today. The next level, which we have not yet attained, is cloud telephony, which perhaps should happen in the next couple of months. The last important point in this digital transformation, we were wondering that while we have a physical virus now, and the entire now world is moving towards cloud, what happens if we have a virtual coronavirus now? Okay, we will again be back to not the old normal, but maybe the old normal. Okay, so what we have done, we have retained some of the physical assets as well. We keep it on for some time, and so that in case of any such emergency, we can, with a short notice, fall back on these items. I mean, our old assets. So that was broadly our experience with.
I think you raised some very, very important points, Sachin, in terms of reflecting on some of the best, when you were talking about process, how you really took the challenge head on and took some fast decisions. Further to that, the empathy factor, the people factor came in quite strongly, and you were dealing with obviously the pension funds, and you know it very well how it's so important.
Correct.
We got some important insights from you in terms of usage of cloud, and of course you are using secure cloud, very in simple terms.
Yes.
To make sure, and also you spoke about while unlocking and while going, you have to be ready to go back to earlier scenario. Of course, we'll never go back to pre-COVID scenario. I'm almost, we're almost all sure, right?
Yes.
Things will never be the same again, perhaps.
Okay.
Most big organizations have totally almost decided. Many the organizations, I don't want to name here, have decided that will go for the hybrid mode. Like many people will be permanently working from home, and some people will be going to office, of course, for hurdles, etc. But we have to get ready for that new normal. Right. So we got some very interesting insights from you. We'll come back to you for your customer specific cases.
Yes.
But let me go across to Anmol right now. So Anmol, you are in a sector which really touches all of us, all of our lives. Like we talk about education sector, and being in Kolkata, being one of the premier institutes, premier universities here, it is definitely a lot of expectations from a university like you. When suddenly this particular pandemic struck, and we were struggling in our home, like for example in my home. My daughter is in one room doing online classes. My wife is in another room doing lectures. It didn't happen overnight, right? We had to got ready for that. Even schools had to get ready for upgrading their processes. It was never easy. Faculties had to get trained on PPTs and how to project screen and stuff. So it took some time, I'm sure. And also from education institution point of view, there are certain processes I'm sure you needed to automate, etc. So what are tell us your journey? I mean, last 6 months, some key learnings from your side, and also some advice for peer institutes, peer universities, and the sector per se. And more. Over to you.
For us, like we were actually in January, we started talking about the pandemic, because when we saw what was happening, we were like, this might actually cause some disruptions at some point, but we never really even considered how serious it would become. And even despite having it at the back of our heads, it was still a surprise when the lockdown happened. So like disruption was like the biggest issue. Disruption to education was like our big point, that we didn't even want to waste one day, right? And so for years we had been planning a learning management software where we could kind of go with an online offline approach. But COVID, like as Sachin said, it was the catalyst for us to really bring that system in. But with technology, there's a lot of issues like adoption, timing, and once you take a system on, it takes really long to just have everyone use it that way. So for us, it was important that we didn't like jump and get an outside system immediately. So we went with a decentralized approach for implementation for the technology. So because we have 30 institutes, right? So it would have been very hard to shoehorn a complete software for them. And it's not like IT, where most of my peers here, they're in the IT sector. So people are more receptive, right? So academic, you have way more stakeholders. You've got, professors, and you've got students. So we let them, pick their own softwares. They all the institutions have their options. They picked up Zoom, they picked up, Google Classroom, and they also use WhatsApp along with it. So it was very like rudimentary, but like any crisis, like it brings out the best in people. And then we started doing these meetings on Saturdays, which we never used to do as a whole group, right? We had institution heads, HODs, really communicating with each other what best practices were for their schools, what was working, what were the loopholes, how were students trying to, get past it. And we were taking that feedback because we were, like I said, we were planning to make our own learning management software for a while. So we took all of those learnings and we started, building our own system, which is finally ready. Right before that, also, we had just taken admission completely online. So it has been a challenge, but honestly, it's been good because we've been able to get so much feedback that at any other time, the implementation would have taken more than a year, I think. And in like 3-4 months, we've had people onto our system. So we went from like admission going completely online to classes going online to like building the software for alumni as well. So now we've got everyone on one system. We started just implementing it because, again, like I said, we've got like 30 different units. Sorry, yeah.
Again, interrupting. So for you, the decision of automation was pre-COVID, not post-COVID. It was pre-COVID.
It was on the books. It was being built. But the thing is, every day, different things would come up because, it just always got pushed back a little bit. We'd make a little bit of progress and then it never really happened. So yes, it was pre-COVID. But in COVID, we really like amped up the implementation for sure. So it's been an interesting experience. But other than like what we were going to do, the new idea that came during COVID was we had a lot of students that were coming up with these like great innovations. So we started making sanitizer at a pharmaceutical school, right? They were making sanitizer when there was a shortage and distributing it amongst them. One of the students' team, they came up with a glove that was self-sanitizing. So we had a lot of innovation that was coming up.
Very interesting.
So within a month's time, actually, props to our tech team and the internal team, they came up with a system called Ideometer, which was our like fundraising platform. So students could put their projects on it, and they could ask for specific amount of funds, and they could fundraise from within GIS. So either the college, the department, or even like friends and family. So that brought within, I think, 2 weeks, we had 200 project submissions from across our group with these fantastic ideas that students had. So that was just great to see. Like, it would really flip your mind. Like, innovation in India doesn't just happen in IITs. It happens everywhere. And Absolutely. So it was just really fantastic to see how the crisis brought out the better in all of us.
Fantastic, and we'll come back to you for some more specific cases related to your experience with
For sure.
External stakeholders. Sanjay, let me come back to you. Very crucial area. You have been dealing with government sector. You have been dealing with multiple clients across the globe. You're dealing with Indian clients, domestic clients, and you're also managing your other processes. And there are 2-3 portfolios that you manage, which I personally know. Why don't you tell us about customer? What has the journey from the customer front? Tell us some cases where you saw some amazing, innovations. How you manage those projects, and also what are some of the learnings that others can follow? I mean, when you are dealing with typical government, private sector, other stakeholders, and entities like World Bank, etc., what has been the experience? You spend about 3-4 minutes on this.
Sure. So the first instant, reaction when this lockdown started was like, how to find how to make our existing customers happy and find new opportunities. And of course, COVID being new for everyone, so we started looking up what could be the areas based on our core expertise we can slightly tweak and help this COVID scenario, and maybe some value addition to our existing customers or new avenues. So they are the first thing that we did, because we already was doing World Bank projects a lot, and we had partnership with a lot of universities. We had a brainstorming session with few universities. And then we started an initiative within Berkeley, UC Berkeley, called spm.berkeley.edu, which is a smart pandemic management team of Berkeley. This group was formed, and I being the initial founding member of the group, along with a lot of Berkeley professors and people from different industry, those were mainly ex-Berkeleys as well. They are not. This small group was formed, and our brainstorming sessions were in and around our collective experience and what solutions and platform can be tested during the COVID. So interestingly, this group is pretty active, and that led us to a lot of business. In fact, and that's we are still continuing, and this will be continued. So the few platforms that immediately came out of this was the first one was for the safe building. So it was a facility operation platform. So it's basically we designed, all these are analytics driven, of course. So it was basically we designed a platform to monitor and mitigate the exposures like in enterprise facilities and minimize the likelihood of disease outbreaks. So the data from HVAC, like air conditioning, the airflow of the building model, and so those were all taken care of. So that's being the one of the initiatives. The second initiative we took in the transportation area, because we targeted a lot of other areas also. So transport being one of our core expertise area, we designed a platform called Cloud Management Platform. In fact, you will be happy to know the same platform now we are using in Kolkata Metro, which is ePass, and the same will be now being used by Kolkata Port Trust. So that's in the transportation vertical. There was a few more, one was very interesting. We made a social behavior platform using a nationwide smartphone data. So we got tied up with Google there from UCB. So there we got a lot of mobile data, the GIS data, of course anonymous, and then we understood the complete flow pattern of the people, the population behavior to capture, and then the heterogeneity, and from there we used to take decision how the COVID is spreading and what are the how we can stop. So those were the analysis being done. Of course, there were a few others, like digital contact tracing was there, which was using a lot of gamification. The idea was how to make a campus safe as well. So for the students, in order to reopen these campuses, it was very difficult. Now it is reopened, and there are small measures like how do you do the contact tracing using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and combined technologies, but making them fun for them. So we had very small technology interventions like shake together. Like whenever the students are there in a cafeteria, say 5 students are there in a meeting, so they would pick up their phone and shake it. So now all the data gets captured in the immediately. So there were small interventions. So through SPM, this is one of the initiatives that we have taken. And the second bigger one was again though in US. So a coalition was formed, truecoalition.org. It's basically a coordinated advocacy coalition. I mean, there were a lot of providers like Northwell, CVS, data-driven health, and a lot of big companies. So and we did a kind of a data-driven analysis for the whole US. We captured not only COVID, but also flu data. They are hospitalization data, even pollution data, all sorts of around 200 data sets from multiple sources. So the idea is how to stop flu if it comes again. So it's like a preparedness for that. Flucoalition.org is already public. You can see now it's available for public. The third one in the government area, I would like to say, we have started even during this COVID period, a great initiative by West Bengal government, a program called Digital Outreach and Citizen Engagement Unit.
Excellent.
So that's an initiative that the West Bengal government had taken during COVID. The idea was how to reach the citizen and disseminate information. That was a very important during the COVID, because not everything is now not physical. So how you really disseminate? So more important on social media was the need was, and rather in general the internet was kind of that this need was realized, and then we created the ecosystem platform for information dissemination in few of the departments, including the recent Duare Sarkar. This is also is a part of that. Like in health bulletins that you see, how to give this information to the people from different sources, be it through Facebook, be it through Twitter, be it through web, and like that. So this is a great one where we the government is actively promoting all the schemes that the government they have. The citizens can know this in no time, of course. And then the government can take their whatever, like what we call in technology term like social listening. So what people are saying about this, what changes need to be done so that the government can take policy changes. So those are the things. So these are the primary three areas that I wanted to share. Yeah.
Very interesting, Sanjay. And how do you find, very interesting to know about government initiatives and how they adopted fast and how they actually leveraged companies like that of yours, and I'm sure many others, for listening to citizens to basically make processes which would enable, that don't stop, right? It's very important. And so it's a very interesting experience that we had.
Yes. So of course, the benefit goes to, of course, government has got some very many government, because their machineries are more or less perfect if you can really use it well. So this was an example. The willingness was from the top to bottom, and then the information flow both the ways, like from the government to the people and the people to the government. So this process was very well established, and this is kind of we started with the health, then panchayat and a few other departments, of course, which were initially food and all PDS, which was pretty much important during the COVID scenario.
Right.
Other departments like
very important. Yeah, great. Let me go over to Sachin right now. Sachin, tell us your experience with customers in these times. Tell us some of the concerns that product companies would have faced. I'm sure I heard from some of the other leaders also, and how they have coped with it, and some ways as to how you dealt with it and how you talk to other customers.
Right.
In different parts of India, and how we're collaborating, how you're reaching other leaders, how you are planning ahead. Here are some of the customer cases from you.
Okay. Before I come to that, just a couple of points I would like to mention here. We're doing work from home, and actually it's a boon. Okay, just that we need to maintain the right work-life balance, which unfortunately has not happened in our Indian culture. Maybe we need to learn from our Western counterpart of some kind of dignified work hours for our entire staff. This I expect the society, the industry to also take it up in various forums, because work from home, while it is a win-win for the employee, for the employee's family, for the organization, and for the nature, it will not be so if people have to work at odd hours. And that has been our experience.
Absolutely.
And when you mentioned clients, I have been talking to some clients also, requesting them not to call after say 7:30 or 8, maybe politely, not that we don't take calls.
You have the luxury to do that. You're doing well, I'm sure.
Yes. But we need to look at this. If work from home has to be a bombastic success.
Right.
Second, most important thing which I missed at the earlier part is that the scope of recruiting people from small towns, villages is now enormous. Yeah. We don't need to recruit people from the larger cities or large campuses here. Okay, that is a fantastic opportunity. I would say the real benefit of IT is now coming, where across India, people will have the scope of sitting in their home and being with their parents and yet delivering to some of the larger corporates of the globe. Okay. Now coming to your question of our experience with our clients, yes, as Sanjay said, we were glad. We're lucky enough to have good number of orders since May, June onwards. Okay. Since we deal in applications for retiral trust funds, the Provident Fund, Superannuation Fund, and gratuity funds, which involves a lot of employees. So corporates with say 2,000 or 3,000 above employees, they were looking forward to make this Provident Fund and Superannuation Fund available online, which was not, the digitization there is slightly poor, which was an opportunity for us. So a lot of people have come back to us because we make this paperless application for loan by the employees, application for settlement by the employees, be they anywhere in India or in the world. So that has definitely helped us, this particular product of ours. And one success story that I would like to share, one large media corporate house placed an order sometime in February. Okay, gave us their data by sometime end of March, and we were at the peak of that COVID-19 crisis. In the month of April and May, we completed the entire migration for around 14,000, plus there was some dormant around 28,000 employees sitting here in Kolkata. Okay, with people working across. So that was, even in normal times, I bet it wouldn't have happened that way. I'm very open to accept that.
In this that was recruiting also, like you have recruited.
Yes, we have recruited people from
districts of Bengal and other places also.
Yes, we have done it not from Bengal right now, but from Shillong, from Noida, from Mumbai. We are looking at people from Hyderabad. So now we even earlier when we used to recruit, we used to think that no, he's going to come from 30 kilometers away from Kolkata, whether to recruit him or not. But now the entire world is open for recruitment. That is something which is phenomenal.
Absolutely agree with you. We don't have much time. Let me go across to Anmol right now. Anmol, you understood my thought process. I wanted to know from you, like when you were actually collaborating with other stakeholders, or when you were actually launching new plans, what has you already mentioned the fast agility. Agility which your unit has shown in terms of automating processes, and I'm sure you started a lot of processes which generally would not see in normal times, online processes and reaching out to your students across different colleges, etc. What has been your experience dealing with entities, dealing with and reaching out to students even in remote corners, and many students are actually working not even in our state, right? They are in different other states, like Bihar or Odisha or Jharkhand, other places, or Northeast, other places also. What has been the experience so far? And I'm sure you will tell experience from your faculties and other people also.
Right. Right. Honestly, what really, I'm telling you, like what helped us the most was like trusting our team and making sure that they communicated with each other. So that brought up a lot of the issues and really helped them innovate so that we could implement all our best practices across the company. But like, as you said, we have students that come from remote parts of West Bengal and Bihar and Jharkhand. And they're so used to, like, they were going to be on campus, they were going to have access to Wi-Fi. And suddenly when you have to work from home, or study from home in this case, it's very different because you don't know if someone is going to be in an area that has the internet to support, the kind of Zoom calls that people were doing. Because, we take it for granted, but, that's not necessarily the case. Devices, we all think that laptops are a given, but, not everyone has that. Some of them are doing it off their smartphones. So things like that. So we really had to like make sure we worked with people and heard from the students, and so that we could adopt to the low data model that they would need. So that was one issue, for instance. The other thing was some students were concerned because they weren't suddenly like gonna be on campus. They weren't gonna be getting those in-person classes. So they were like, is a three-year degree even worth it at that point? So we had to really make sure that they had those resources. We built more studios across our campuses, so that we could have access to that. And as Sachin said, it really, for me, it was really interesting because we could suddenly like now have people be involved from across the country or globe. And for a lot of our team members also, they hadn't done that initially. And whenever we did, there was some resistance, I would say. But because of this whole thing, we could suddenly like the playing field was leveled, and we could really get people from different parts of the country. So it's been interesting. It's a mixed bag. It's a challenge every day, but we've been pivoting, and the team has been pivoting. Students have been very, very helpful. The feedback has been fantastic. And so it's been good overall.
Excellent, Anmol. So I think, Raki, do we have a minute? I mean, or do we close now?
Maybe just about a minute.
Okay, so if I have a minute, I want to leverage this time. I will ask three of you. We see you as role models for new age leaders. We were, of course, you were good leaders. Tell us, each one of you, Sanjay, Anmol, Sachin, tell us 3 characteristics or 3 attributes of good leaders in these times. And you can repeat also, not a problem. Sanjay.
See, the first one should be like, very open mind. Should be able to accept, the failure. The second one is, of course, like thinking. What we heard, like think and think. Bhava, bhava, bhava,
right.
Like the famous director said. So that's thinking power is very important. And the third one is, of course, like as work as a team. That he said already, Sachin. Like very important. Like as a leader should be able to work with a team. So without there is nowhere.
Sachin.
Yeah, I know not. I know not who would make a more fitting guide in these turbulent times than Swami Vivekananda on leadership. Okay, his words were, "If you want to be a leader, you be servant of servants." And later on, Robert K. Greenleaf termed this philosophy as servant leadership in 1977. Okay, and then to carry it forward, Herb Kelleher, of Southwest Airlines, said that treat your employees well, and they in turn will treat your customers well.
Absolutely.
And so there, basically, you have to be more focused on giving than receiving, more persuading than coercing, more motivating than in commanding.
Excellent stuff. Anmol.
And I think I would say like implementation. So like what works for your organization within a crisis. The second thing would be timing. Ensure that you're dealing with the problems right then and there rather than, delaying it. And the third thing would be thinking beyond the crisis, which is very important, which people almost forget because they're like, horse eyes, and they forget the time beyond the crisis. So just looking beyond that as well.
Excellent, guys. I'm sure audience got some amazing gold dust and thoughts from all 3 of you. Raki, over to you. It's really been
Thank you.
To my panel.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. It's been a really great session. Thank you so much, Mr. Nirupam Chaudhary, Mr. Sanjay Chatterjee, Mr. Anmol Singh Narula, and Mr. Sachin Thakkar for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We straight away move on to the next session, which is the security panel. On the session, topic name is Top 10 Priorities for CISOs in the After Corona World. And let me quickly introduce the panelists. We have Mr. Bala Ramanan, who is the AVP Risk and Compliance, Microland Limited. Mr. Bala Ramanan has over 24 plus years of experience and is working with Microland for more than 16 years. At Microland, he has been entrusted with the role of a CISO to ensure that Microland offices and delivery centers are secure and compliant. Mr. Ramanan has significant experience in cybersecurity domain and is instrumental in redefining Microland's cybersecurity strategy. He has helped many organizations to implement effective security measures. Mr. Ramanan has won both national and international awards and is a member of the Open Compliance and Ethics Group and was the co-chair for the International Association of Privacy Professionals, Bangalore chapter. for a tenure of 2 years. He has worked extensively and is knowledgeable on cybersecurity, privacy, business continuity, contractual compliance, and statutory and regulatory domains. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Bala Ramanan, sir. Now, our next welcome, sir. Our next panelist is Mr. Sanjay Prasad, who is the CIO of RPSG CESC Power Group. Prior to RPSG CESC Power Group, Mr. Sanjay Prasad was the CIO for Tata Power. His current focus areas are enterprise systems management and governance, interventions through digital technology and cybersecurity. As part of the mentorship team of IIT Bombay Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and as part of an angel investing fraternity, he is keenly associated with startups and niche partners in diverse areas. His earlier roles were primarily those of CIO and technology and business head for innovation enablement through the CTO's office in TCS and the tech service business units in TCS and Citigroup, with prior progressive stints in Colgate, Unilever, and Tata Motors. Mr. Sanjay Prasad is a BE from Jadavpur University and an MBA from XLRI, and a recipient of the Tata Global Innovista Award, and is a fellow and former vice president of the Computer Society of India, and he is also a senior member of the ACN. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Sanjay Prasad, sir. Our next panelist is Mr. Sriram Lakshmanan, who is the Vice President, Cybersecurity Assurance, Genpact. Mr. Lakshmanan is responsible for cybersecurity assurance at Genpact, and he leads the teams to meet or exceed Genpact's commitments to client information security, expectations, and that of Genpact's management. This includes continually maturing the security posture through management systems like ISO 27001. He has over 20 years of experience in reputed organizations like United Health Group, Citigroup, and EXL, and a prior entrepreneurial stint in IT. Mr. Lakshmanan holds a bachelor's degree in computer science from Delhi University, a postgraduate business management diploma from AIMA Delhi, and he also holds the CISM and the CISA certifications, and is a high trust certificate security practitioner and an ISO 27001 lead auditor and implementer. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Sriram Lakshmanan, sir. And the chairperson for the session is Mr. Mohan Bhatt, who is the MD and co-founder of ACOP Systems Private Limited. Mr. Bhatt has more than 22 years of experience in enterprise and SMB product solution designing and sales. He heads the sales division at ACOPS. His decade-long experience in secure remote access application delivery and network security has enabled ACOPS to deliver quality solutions to enterprise customers. Prior to ACOPS, Mr. Bhatt managed the national pre-sales team for NeoAxle, now acquired by VMware. At NeoAxle, he was instrumental in setting up NeoAxle's sales operation in India. Before NeoAxle, he was the head of operations for North India in V-Fortress Network Security Private Limited. Mr. Bhatt headed several quality control and technical support divisions in Bangalore, like HeartQuest, systems domains in the previous companies that he has worked in. I warmly welcome you, Mr. Mohan Bhatt, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, again, a reminder that there's a Q&A box. In case you have some pertinent and relevant questions, kindly post them. And we will handle those questions at the end of the session. And I now hand over the session to you, Mr. Bhatt, the security panel, top 10 priorities for CISOs in the after-corona world. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Raki. And good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be actually with people here with long-standing experience with respect to the IT and with respect to security. It's an honor to be with Mr. Bala, and it's an honor to be with Mr. Sanjay and with Mr. Sriram here. And I, first of all, welcome you all for this discussion. And thanks to all the people who are watching the show. And as it is rightly been identified, we are going to discuss on the 10 top priority things for a CISO to look into. So in the COVID situation, it's been a new situation for all. Before the COVID situation, there were two set of operations which were there all over the world. The world was separated into developed countries and developing countries. But none of the developed countries or developing countries ever imagined a COVID environment. A COVID was new for all. I had attended many presentations last year. I've attended many discussions last year. The premium organizations all over the world, till the last moment, was not actually aware a COVID can come and what is the outcome of a COVID. People had discussed on few things, but yes, COVID was never there. So with a eminent panel what we have here, so I would like a starting note from Mr. Bala for the 10 priorities which has been there, so that we can set the precedence for the entire panel.
Thanks, Mohan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, INFOCOM. I don't think anybody, any organization in the world would have actually claimed that they were prepared for a COVID kind of a scenario.
True.
While we talk about business continuity and man-made disaster, natural disaster, and we talk about pandemics, I think most of them would have planned more from a geo-position point of view, which is like maybe a city, not even a country they would have imagined. But COVID took the entire world by surprise, and phase by phase, still it's continuing. And it has posed various kind of challenges across different types of industries. I mean, service, manufacturing, you name it. I mean, it has been very different. The most challenging job, I think, while the healthcare industry is working on it, the defenders are, more from a technology standpoint, are the CISOs. And it becomes very pertinent because the scale of cyber threats have increased at least about a zillion times. I mean, when there was so much of cyber threats and attacks which were happening when we were working within the facility, just imagine a situation when everybody is working from home, home Wi-Fi routers, access points, and there's absolutely no control over the kind of endpoint they can use. And it's a huge challenge, and the kind of dimension it has unraveled. It took the entire world by surprise. I mean, that is something I don't think any of them would have actually anticipated. I would wait for more questions to come, but the perspective is yes. It doesn't make a difference between developed or undeveloped countries. The situation is very same at both the states of the coin.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. There's nothing called developed or developing countries with respect to a post-COVID environment. It's all same, and it's an opportunity for all CISOs and CIOs to actually look into it for innovation and for future roadmaps. So, Mr. Sriram, it's your take on how is the situation like?
Yeah, I mean, the world couldn't have, or maybe could have avoided this to learn and implement the things we did, right? But the element here is, I think, learning from it and continuing to improve on stuff. But probably the most important element there would be people safety, and I think that's probably less often said in forums. And I thought it would be important to reflect. All of this is important. People's lives are important, and therefore making them work at their home securely is probably the most important element that at least we went with from our thinking standpoint. And yes, therefore, the cost of implementing security technologies at the endpoint comes at a price. And how much can you implement, and therefore how much in the post-COVID era, when this is likely to be the new normal of work across the world, literally, how will that pan out? And I think the connected element there is we have the privilege to serve customers across several industries and verticals. Who would have thought banking would have been possible through remote working situations? We grew up going to the branch, and then internet banking came, and now it is internet banking. It's at somebody's home, literally. So those are some of the things that we ponder over and see. How do we get the best bang for the buck as we implement these security technologies and controls while people are safe?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Sanjay. You've been a CIO for long, and always the IT budgets were always screened by the CFO. And in the COVID situation, it is IT actually which took forward the company's operations. And without the IT, COVID would have been disastrous for everyone. And CISOs are being given more prominence now to ensure that whatever operations are going on, the security has been taken care of. So it's a new world here. So how do you look into it from the CISO or CIO point of view?
So first, let me thank INFOCOM for inviting me to this event. And it was indeed the previous session on servant leadership was probably a thread that all of us can carry forward, even in a post-COVID situation. So just to give in a little bit of context with respect to, while everybody faced the COVID situation, since the panelists and yourself are out from, not from Kolkata, we actually experienced a double whammy during that period of lockdown. We had a super cyclone which hit us, which probably in terms of speed was said that we hadn't experienced it for the last 100 plus years. And that led to a lot of disruption. And electricity being the, highest, or the simplest denominator between all functions, whether in office or in your personal life, also got affected. So we also had to tide over that situation. Coming back to the challenges that one saw as a custodian of information is we saw that about 200 pre-COVID 200 million endpoints was supposed to be the composite volume worldwide, which sort of quadrupled because of demands that came in on the business. And with that, a lot of challenges also came in with respect to false positives being created within the system. So you had a set of information security practitioners who were now not able to handle these volumes. So they were a fatigued lot. So that is one aspect that one needed to keep into account. Apart from that, in order to actually address the real threats, it was important that how you configured the tools in a pre-COVID scenario where you were slightly more relaxed than during this period also came into prominence. The second important fact, from a human perspective, was to remain engaged with all your, team members. Of course, the infrastructure and the security people were stretched maximum, but there were people who were at the back end whom you would normally not interact in this, stressed situation. You needed to keep them engaged, motivated, especially those who are working on, innovation and R&D projects. So to keep that, fire burning. So these were some of the human challenges that we faced. Of course, paramount was to address the multiplication of endpoints, especially in businesses which are away from the services world, which, when I say away from the services world, largely the brick and mortar business, which for whom work from home is more of a rare exception rather than making it, mainstream. Also important was in the business that I am in, a lot of work cannot be done work from home. The actual field repairs, where you need to actually put, the people on the ground, needs to happen. So we had to segment the workforce in such a way that which allowed maturity of numbers with respect to the type of role that was being performed. So it was not one rule of thumb that was being applied. Yes, it is, 75% or 25% that will be across the organization. So that was an important metric for which there was no prior formula. And that became also a challenge for us to work on. Of course, and now we have sort of understood the situation, and we can now talk about how things can move from a people, governance and technology perspective as the session goes on.
True. One of the things what I understand about the power is that the meters which are completely manual, you need people on the field to actually go to every place and collect the meter readings. But with the smart meters coming in, the smart meters can actually find out the meter readings in a remote area without actual man intervention into it. So when I look into the priorities, 10 priorities which is there, Mr. Sanjay has given 2 priorities. One is the infra which is needed from the end user point of view, that's the employee point of view. When we talk about work from home or when we talk about post-COVID situation, Mumbai may have a better infra and the villages may not have a better infra. So if work from home or the post-COVID situation is there, electricity, internet will actually matter a lot. The second thing Mr. Sanjay actually has pointed out is automation of all the activities where manual intervention is not needed. So these two things can be considered as priorities among the 10 priorities which is there. So Mr. Bala, how do you look into a couple of priorities which can be looked by the CISOs as some of the important points for taking the post-COVID situation forward?
I mean, I agree to what Sriram and Sanjay sir has said. The challenges are numerous, and every single geo and every single sector had a different kind of challenge to overcome with. Like he said by Sanjay sir, that you need hands and feet on the ground to take care of certain things. So I can't generalize the priorities where with respect to kind of a sector or something like that. But overall, if you're going to look at a strategy, okay, when we looked at the security architecture, what is that was challenging from a business context that has to be ensured to get the continuity of the business to be at a maximum extent possible. Because come what may, the one good thing in the bad scenario was the entire world was reeling under COVID. It was not one part of it, so that the other side of the world had a different opinion about it. Therefore, everybody across the world were reeling, and they were able to, they were opening up, and they were able to accept what the other side of the table was talking about. So, therefore, it was easy to look into contracts. We were able to look into relaxing certain things, compliance postures, but not compromising the security posture. But the most important thing is strategy. As Sriram rightly said, at the endpoints, suddenly there is an overwhelming exposure on the endpoints, and people are connecting their laptops to the Wi-Fi hotspots at their home. Never in anybody's dream or any CISO would have ever dreamt that one day, a day will come where they have to take care of the security of the home Wi-Fi. That's something which is nobody would ever thought about it. I mean, you have so many people at home, kids at home, other elderly people at home. They don't understand security, but what if they click any malicious link, download something, and therefore your endpoint gets compromised? So it becomes very pertinent that strategy needs to be looked from a holistic standpoint, and it needs to be looked from a business context and from where people are working. While the infra is very important, I have the infra, availability is there, but from a security standpoint, what are the technologies that can cohesively work together to give you a better security architecture? I mean, that is something which is very pertinent to every single business. I mean, there is no formula where I can say that take this and take A plus B and then that's it. No, you will be secured. I mean, if that is what that easy, then everybody would be very secure in the world. The growing attempts are the growing threat vectors rather. There are two parts, which is coming on the IoT or the industrial, OT part of it, and the other part is your phishing email from the IT part of it. So these are the major sources, and I think that would be a priority from my side. You're on mute, Mohan.
Yeah. So thank you. Mr. Sriram, what do you feel about the change in government regulations, the change in company needs? Earlier, work from home was not something which was a ask or not even accepted, right? But now there is a change in the company requirements. Employees have been asked to do critical activities from home. Government has been giving permission to work from home. So in the time of cybersecurity threats, how do you feel the mindset of an organization has to look into, or the CISOs has to look into how things can happen?
Sure. I guess the most important element to remember is that information security objectives primarily have to make sure that the business objectives are met. And yes, they have to be met securely. So there is no disconnect I think we should have. the element, if the business is running, that's also things you have to, you'll have the energy and time to make things secure. So don't forget the core element of making the business and the lights on and business running. And in this scenario, when the business is running from people's homes, you would have, save the technology and the governance and those kind of control architectures that we spoke about. You alluded to the government side of the house and how that has been also enabled by allowing especially in the Indian context, where there were regulations with how SEZ units had to run and how licenses had to be applied for and certain governance and compliance norms have to be met. Those have been over the past, as the pandemic broke, of course, the government immediately, I think, stepped in to extend that part to several industry forums, to leverage that people could work from home, which they otherwise wouldn't have without filing for, I don't know, tons of paperwork and several crores of bank guarantee probably. That has been done away with. And I think with the recent changes that the government announced, the ability for companies to, especially in the non-voice area, to leverage that and work from home and have a different way of meeting the requirements that the government originally set out with, I think is a welcome move. It does now give you the firepower to do it with a better peace of mind, if you will, from a paperwork perspective and the ability to meet the requirements of the government perspective. So my take on this would be, whether it is the DOT licensing regimes or the SEZ norms or the STPI ones, the ability to, from a government public people partnership perspective, has definitely moved much more simpler, and it has enabled a lot of industries to capitalize where possible. I know Mr. Prasad mentioned, there would be some areas where it is not, you need hands and feet literally to fix things, but wherever it is possible, especially in the ITES areas, it is a welcome move, I would say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shriram. Mr. Sanjay, the thing is, in the post-COVID situation, cloud solutions and service solutions, which is there, software as a service solution is also booming a lot. So one is we are looking at a security from work from home as to be prioritized. And the second thing is that data centers are moving to the cloud. There is a unique push for organizations to move their data centers to the cloud. And we feel that skill sets is supposed to be enhanced across verticals so that the cloud solutions and our new required skill sets are going to be a challenging thing. So you can put some word on that?
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah. So Mohan, I just wanted to react to a point that you made a little earlier with respect to smart meters. Yeah. So in terms of coverage, we do have a presence of smart meters as well as prepaid meters in our ecosystem. Okay. And which obviously does take care of a certain part of the consumer population. With respect to that set of people who got affected by way of legacy meters, we also made a provision of trust billing, which is also a concept which is picking up now, whereby it enables the consumer to actually report their reading, whether it is a gas meter or an electricity meter. And in terms of the outages that happened due to the super cyclone, we actually put the network back. About upwards of 5,000 poles had got disrupted, and we had to put the network back in a record 7 days, which would normally take the developing countries upwards of 2 weeks to bring normalcy. So I just wanted to bring that point relevant with respect to the point that you made. Yeah. Coming back to skill sets, and I would touch upon skill sets and a bit of governance. I talked about the case of false positives. Yeah. So apart from information security personnel being certified in their respective areas, it is also important that AI/ML training is not only a preserve of those who are developing application systems. In terms of eradicating those false positives, one needs to see the right AI/ML interventions that are required to make sure that you are actually working on the vectors which give you an outcome. instead of chasing all the mirages that come out of your alert reports logically. On the other hand, the hackers and the perpetrators are also one step ahead of you with respect to AI and ML intervention. So it's always a catch-up game that needs to happen. So this is an important area of mindset and training that needs to come for an IS professional. Apart from that, understanding the whole security orchestration, authentication, and response to work with your legacy SIM system is very, very important. It is just not it's just not something to say that I have implemented an SIM solution. What you do with that outcome of the data that comes out of that system, and to ensure that you have the right response in the right time, to make sure that the compromises are arrested well ahead of time. So these are two components which are a little in terms of technical as far as the IS professional is concerned. Apart from that, you talked about cloud. So it is no more on-premise, hybrid, just hybrid or just cloud. It can be a mixture. And even in terms of cloud, it can be a multi-tenanted cloud. So before the infrastructure personnel or the application systems personnel actually hires a provider to provide you that cloud services, the information security personnel should be part of the team to ensure that you don't do a post-mortem, rather than you prepare yourself for that situation where you can avoid pitfalls with respect to data leakage. Of course, the major cloud providers are seemingly well equipped to handle this, and some element of comfort. But even if you outsource jobs, the responsibility and accountability does not go away from you. Okay. In terms of skill sets, I also wanted to talk about, if you look at the NIST framework, we should, typically people have a mindset, and this is more to do with how your organization takes you, that yes, you need these ABC tools, you need an antivirus, an SIEM, or in terms of threat intelligence tools. The budget is given, and you say that yes, I have bought and implemented them. But it is important to see that you have only addressed probably of the 5 boxes that you have in terms of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. You have probably done only 1.5 of all those 5. Configuration is an important piece which must be accompanied with a skilled peer review to see that you have actually plugged all the loopholes. Otherwise, you might have existence of certain connections to some remote Tor nodes which you are completely not aware of, or there could be somebody sitting on your network maliciously hibernating and actually pulling you from day to day before they make a much more stronger attack and cripples you. So secondly, the information security personnel should be independent of the IT infrastructure and the IT application teams. Legacy-wise, the information security personnel in most of the Indian firms still continue to be part of IT infrastructure, and which is something that the organization, the management, and the IT management also must ensure that this independence of functions should be provided. And therefore, which doesn't mean that he becomes a blocker. He should be a watchful enabler, because business also needs to run. So at this point, I'm just sort of taking a pause, and I have a couple of points which will come at the end and sort of elaborate.
Mohan, sorry to interrupt. Just to add to what Sanjay said, because something came from my mind what we did there. When you go to the management for any kind of a budget approval, the first thing they are asking is what is the ROI for the solution which has been already implemented, what are they working, and all those stuff. One of the experiences we had quite some time back was, whenever somebody implements a security technology, right, a technology might contain, say, about 50 features. And for that point in time, the organization would have enabled only 30 features and not all the 50. Okay.
True.
And this is not documented, and it just goes out of the mind. And later, when you look at review this after maybe a couple of years as to are those 20 features which I didn't enable then are relevant now? Can I enable it? We found that without spending a single extra penny, by looking at all the security solutions and the features that were not enabled, we reviewed it and we enabled whatever was relevant and pertinent. We were able to improve our security posture close to 20% without a single penny investment.
Yeah.
No, that is something which really, really helped us. And I keep telling all my friends and all my customers, my peer groups that, this is one of the most, this is like your hidden gold. You already have it, but, your predecessor must have done something and we are not even aware of it. And what the technology is capable of. And that is something, it's a gold mine, I'm telling you.
Very much. So that's where skill sets comes in and a mindset comes in. Many technologies are already there in the organization. It's only about fine-tuning the requirements so that we can take the new challenges. So one more thing which comes into criticality is earlier it was all people working from office and people working from designated areas like branches and everything. But now when people are working from home, how is the data protection coming into focus? Because a person working from home can always download the data, and that's becoming a considerable amount of concern for organizations. And the next thing is biometrics have been used extensively now in the name of authentication. And there is a pros and cons of it, right? On one side, we look into the biometrics as the way in which an authentication can be done. And other side, we look at biometrics as a theft of your privacy, right? So what are the balance you're looking at in case Mr. Bala or Sriram?
You want to go for it?
Sure. Very interesting perspective, because here, from a services standpoint, like I said earlier, we have the privilege to serve several customers, several industries across several parts of the globe. And in the context of remote working, when you're at somebody's house, somebody's working from home, physical security, the badging process has already gone for a toss. What is a badging process at home, right? And the building cameras we used to have obviously is no longer going to be applicable. So, and then you touch upon the element of how data downloads and those kind of elements play an important element to the whole picture, especially when the endpoints needn't be corporate managed. We do have BYOD in the several use cases in some of the businesses, not necessarily in our company, but in the industry at least. Now, in those situations, you would not even know where it is getting downloaded. So the element that we've tried to work through is and I think both of you, Bala and Sanjay, hit on an important point of making sure that what you have is secured. I know that the configuration management there, the security, ultimately it's foundationally it is nothing but common sense. You have to use what you already have and then build on it. So that was one element that I wanted to speak to. The second part is oftentimes we have to work with our customers. You can put all the padlocks in your building and your house, but what happens, the customer side is also equally important. And we've had situations where we had to work with our customers to, remember, they were also in this rapid response mode, and they did open up some things that they might not have done it in that sort of suboptimal mechanism in that time frame. So we did work with one of our customers to notify them, you have this probably a gap that you might want to look at and fix immediately. Not only it saves us the trouble of worrying about the download at our data points, but also endpoints, but also for you as a customer, because ultimately your data is important to you as well. So the baseline, the security, the configuration management, not just at the service provider end, but also the customer end. And those conversations to me have actually helped create a very different rhythm with our customers now. And the beauty of this whole engagement has been that at several CXO levels, these topics are now almost table stakes. So earlier it was most of a questioning slash audit type of a conversation. Now it is more participative. And you know what? Let's find out the best way to protect each other's environment and not cause insecurities in that sense. So that was the second element. And I think the third element that you spoke to was probably on the biometric side. Leaving privacy topics aside for a later time conversation, there is this element of the right positioning of how this biometric can be used for A, authentication, B, for example, unauthorized movement behind you when somebody walks by or takes a look at your screen while you're working on, let's say, a credit card process and so on. All of these are important, can be done, but again, it is not a foolproof technology. You will need to make sure that you have the right boundaries of people process checks and the right communication to what it is really solving and not solving. So I would leave it at that, and I'd like Bala as well chime in.
I will just add to what Sriram said. Yes, first one very important point here, because you don't know where your employee is working from. I mean, we don't know whether he's working from Starbucks or airport free Wi-Fi. You have no idea about it. I mean, as long as a person is online, yes, we think yes, the work is being done. Now the question is, I mean, privacy is a whole lot of different animal we can deal with that data. But I'm going back to my basics. Whether you talk about security, data protection, I mean, different layers of it. Is the onion, the more the layers you peel, you get, the more layers you will see are yet to be opened up. So I rely on a very simple method, which is very commonsensical. It consists of 3 parameters, which is visibility, control, monitoring. So either you talk about data protection, you talk about security, you talk about productivity, the first thing needed is visibility. Who is that person? Where is the person working from? I mean, are they accessing the applications? I mean, is the data available? Whatever they are supposed to see is only being shown to them. So visibility is first something needs to be be made open. If you don't have visibility, you can't control. If you don't have control, you can't monitor whether the control is still working or not, because you don't know whether it's actually controlling or not. So you need this VCM concept, which is very important and very simple to apply anywhere in whatever process or policies which we want to look into it. So basic front is, as Sriram rightly said, the dynamics of the data protection completely differs. Like if you talk about in today's world, the next gen thought process, like if you talk about zero trust as a concept, zero trust as a concept was specified in 2010 by Forrester. Okay. And it has come now to 2020 for people to actually adopt zero trust. But whereas if you look at another concept which Sanjay was mentioning also was on the secure access service side, which is SASE, which is a concept which came up last year by Gartner. And today it is becoming, as a thinking process as to how you can align your security strategy in line with your zero trust and SASE model. So if you are going to bring zero trust principles inculcated within a SASE model for your business security architecture, I think your data protection, privacy, many things gets addressed out there.
Thanks, Mr. Bala. We are short of time. So, Mr. Sanjay, I would like to have the importance of forensics actually. Now, we are talking about the security, we are talking about access, we are talking about work from home, SaaS and everything. Now, what do you feel the importance of forensics is going to be? Because each industry is different from its customers, different from its operations and everything. So because we are not going to work from office, it's going to be home, it's going to be resorts, or it's going to be public places. So how is forensic going to help? Yeah. You're on mute, sir.
It's a tricky question, and let me put it in the model, so to say. So I would place it in the response and recover portion of the framework. And when I say recover, I mean if there is a breach, whether it's a breach of an individual, doing a malified intention, or a set of hackers who have more than pure curiosity in mind. In those cases, as part of the framework, one needs to prepare oneself that forensic is a service that needs to be provisioned right in the beginning. Because when you try to avail of this service at a time when you are in deep soup, you will be also taken for a ride. So you need to plan for this basic, like you have retainers, you have to have a retainership of forensic service, which actually, and that's again, which Bala mentioned, if the question of ROI is asked, it's something that you need to pay. It's like your life insurance. You pay your premium, nothing happens, you move on to the next year. So this retainership is like a life insurance. You hope nothing will happen, but you still pay that. But if something were to happen, you then avail of the immediate, 4 or 5 days of that services at a cost which you have negotiated in normal times, and then look at the response to that situation going forward. Secondly, along with forensics, I would like to talk about cyber insurance, a very, very unattended point in our industry today, especially those who are from the manufacturing, sector and production sector with a lot of brick and mortar. They are highly underinsured with respect to cybersecurity. And therefore, it flips back on a governance mode that these respond and recover should actually be also in the limelight of the board. When you talk about the top 5 or top 10 risks for the organization, this is something which typically falls under the arm of finance and insurance. So if you suddenly go and tell them you're not insured adequately enough, who the hell are you to tell me? You do your boxes, you do your tools and tackles job. So this is something which is a very important point which we need to take care of. Very quickly, I will just talk about, since we talked about manufacturing and production, mostly we've sort of delved on information security on the IT side. There is a whole host of OT also as part of it, which are essentially for a sector like ours are the crown jewels. And therefore, while the information security practice within IT is very mature, they need to approach this with a shedding of ego, because otherwise this working together between IT and OT teams will forever become a challenge. That is one thing that one needs to address. And this again should get driven as part of advocacy. You should put it up to the board so that the board takes the mandate and says, no, you guys need to work together. And especially in the way that IoT has pervaded in the OT arena, in terms of, in order to do very quick fixes of sensor enablement, you would have lightweight protocols like a telemetry protocol like MQTT, which is very which is low bandwidth, very easy to implement, but you have to be careful what sort of data you are leaking out as part of this protocol. So this balancing one needs to do as you do more and more digitalization in the OT world, in the machine-to-machine world. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sanjay. In the last 45 minutes around, we covered up topic of infra on the customer employee end, automation of our operations so that IT can actually touch point on every activity. We looked into the government policies and the company policies which is getting changed. We looked into the mindset of people which has to be adapt. We are looking into the skill set of people who has to be upgraded. We are looking into SaaS and cloud becoming a prominent adoption which has been there, and it has to be looked into from the security point of view. We looked into the data protection, which is supposed to be looked into by the CISOs. We looked into forensics and biometrics. We didn't get into too much of OSP. It will take long time to discuss that, but again, that's one more point to be looked into. And we were looking into cyber insurance, thanks to Mr. Sanjay to put it across. And we were looking into IoT. And the next thing which will come is do away with a lot of technologies now, because in the post-COVID situation, HRMS application, attendance, biometric attendance in office, and video visibility of a person, all that is going to go off. So huge amount of applications which were actually traditionally used are going to have end of its life now, right? So looking at the time, one thing what is very critical is the incident response, because all are going to work from home, all are going to work from their own place. How are we going to look into incident response? Because in the earlier time, anything happens, people join together, come to a conference room, and have a coffee together and discuss brainstorming sessions. Now, how are we going to get together for an incident? So we have couple 2 minutes from everyone. So take your time.
Yeah, thanks, Mohan. Before we get into that, there was one point which I missed out to kind of say as part of the priorities, which is the backups. While we are moving towards a different kind of a combination, cloud, on-prem, so many things. So here, what happens is offline backup of your critical data is something which every organization needs to ensure. I mean, God forbid, in case you get compromised, then at least you will be able to bounce back within a stipulated period of time. Having said that,
I have one more take on that. The backup get lost, and what will happen?
See, that is where the resiliency, as Sanjay sir was saying, the process.
So I was talking to a team which was doing a video recording on all the activities which has been there, but that video recording could be played on any player, right? So if the video recording of an employees is going to a wrong hand, right, then anything and everything is gone for a toss.
So that is where we have to see this as a holistic part of it. I mean, it's not a separate silo, but backup is also part of your security architecture. As Sanjay rightly said, when the earlier gone are the days where IT used to work in a separate silo and InfoSec used to work in a separate silo. I mean, the objectives have to be, they have to converge. I mean, IT can't say that I will do backup, it's your job to protect. I mean, it can't work like that, right? So, lot of collaboration is happening, lot of convergence is happening across all the levels of the organization, which is a very good sign. As Sriram also was pointing out, the layers are being, when customers are opening up and saying that, okay, let us see how we can help each other to make this happen. That's the level of discussion which is happening right now, which is very important. So instant response, yes, again, that's a very dicey area. That is something which is very important. A company can't do away with it. You need to, as Sanjay rightly said, that should be a first thing rather than being at the last. So I would just say that, and I will pass on to Mr. Sanjay.
I concur. You can't plan for an incident after it has happened. It has to come much ahead. So Mr. Prasad brought that up beautifully. So I concur fully. I think the other element connected to the incident response process, I would also say, is how are we looking at the workforce in general and their, especially COVID and that kind of situation and their stress around that, and how does that play out is probably related to the insider threat of the story. And when you're under duress, you are likely to make bad decisions. And how do using technologies such as ML, AI, etc., you can predict some of those movements and hopefully prevent that before you need to get those retained the consultant in for the incident part. It's not going to be easy. It is remote. It is very, very diverse and very, very disparately set up environment. However, if you have the basics right, some of it, at least the containment part, could be done easily, especially if you use a cloud-based technology to deliver endpoints and the remote infrastructure. So at least you can chop that off while you do the investigation and require whatever forensic evidences you. Okay, sure. So I do want to thank the panel and the host, Mr. Bhatt, as well, for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks to everyone. Thanks to INFOCOM for this opportunity. And a single line advice from Mr. Bala, Mr. Sriram, and Mr. Sanjay. Single line advice to all the people who are there watching on the CISO priorities.
Be calm. This too shall pass. I go back to the statement which I said, visibility, control, and monitoring. Look into that, apply those principles, and adopt on baby steps, but be firm. Thanks.
Mr. Sanjay Sriram?
Yeah, so I would say message for the CISOs would be to be a 360 degrees watchful enabler.
Mr. Sriram?
I concur with what Bala said. Common sense usually wins the battle on most days. Stick to it and make sure that people around you are safe and you enable the business the best possible way you can securely.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I make a statement here that there was developed and developing countries, but in the post-COVID area, at least in the IT forum, India will be a developed country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you, Mr. Mohan Bhatt, sir, Mr. Bala Ramanan, sir, Mr. Sanjay Prasad, sir, and Mr. Sriram Lakshman, sir, for joining us today at the security panel. It was a very interesting session. I'm afraid we're out of time. We've got some questions, but we were unable to ask in the last session also, and in this session also, because we are running out of time. And as you all know, the Honorable Minister for IT and Electronics, Government of West Bengal, will be joining us at 5:30. So we need to be on time. So we're sorry if we were unable to, take up any questions. We move on to the next session, which is a keynote address by Mr. Priyabrata Pramanik on the session. Developing an IT hub in Bengal. Mr. Priyabrata Pramanik is the National Chief Advisor of Krishi Vikas Shilpa Kendra. Mr. Pramanik is currently, the National Chief Advisor of KBSK, which is Krishi Vikas Shilpa Kendra, and it is implementing agency for National 20-Point Program. This program is monitored by the Prime Minister's Office, Government of India. He is a member of the Policy Group, Ministry of Commerce and Industry on manufacturing, services, reforms, etc., working jointly with Niti Aayog, RBI, and other ministries. He was a key person in formulating the digital economy and e-commerce policy for India. He has worked in the Ministry of Finance and also for MNCs and Indian companies. As a member of the core group, he was involved in formulating the format of the current economic census of India being carried out by Ministry of Statistics and PI. Now, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Priyabrata Pramanik, sir, on the session Developing an IT Hub in Bengal. Over to you, sir, for your keynote address.
Thank you, Ms. Raki, all the distinguished guests and the speakers. I really thank ABP and INFOCOM for inviting me for this such prestigious occasion. All of us have heard the speech of the Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal on the inaugural address, where the Honorable Chief Minister pointed out the advantage of IT in West Bengal. What are these advantages? And one big occasion is that, as the Honorable CM mentioned, that West Bengal has the highest number of MSMEs among all the states in India. So obviously, this comes that we should do something for these MSMEs of West Bengal or in Calcutta or somewhere in West Bengal. Also, the Honorable Chief Minister mentioned that there are a lot of startups coming up. There is a huge talent pool in West Bengal, lot of IITs, Yadavpur, Shivpur, engineers coming out every year. So there are a lot of talent pool, and many of them are going for startups. Now, the question is how Krishi Vikas Shilpa Kendra or KBSK comes into the picture for building a smart IT hub. Where does KBSK stand? As you know, as Ms. Raki has pointed out, that KBSK is the implementing agency and associated ministerial partner and service provider of National 20-Point Program. This program is looked after by Honorable Prime Minister himself and his PMO, Prime Minister's Office. A very key feature of this 20-Point Program is the IT-enabled service and e-governance. So the government of India decided that KBSK be entrusted with the job of building a smart IT hub in West Bengal, specifically for MSMEs and startups. So that is the background from where we are starting. considering the federal structure of our governance, please, the earlier slide. Considering the federal structure of the governance, we sincerely hope and we always opine that this will be a joint venture between the government of India and government of West Bengal, because without the fullest cooperation of the state government, we cannot progress. So we definitely look for that. Next. Next slide. Now, what we are creating in this smart IT hub? Why another IT hub where there are so many IT hubs already in India? There is a difference into what we are building and what others are creating. Specifically, there is a more digitized functioning, as you can see, more smart and intelligent facilitation for the MSMEs. There will be a huge employment generation for our young fellows. There will be improved network connectivity and communication, and MSMEs can upgrade themselves into this. I will come to this more details later in my slide, what the Prime Minister has already announced. And we will give the state-of-the-art technology in West Bengal, not only the modernized infrastructure, but the state-of-the-art technology for the manufacturing sector, service sector, as well as consulting industries. Next. Next slide, please. We have decided that there will be around 5 lakh square feet of super built area for building this smart IT hub. Already we have identified and we are going on to this. Specifically, it will be accredited by STPI. Yesterday, we have heard the DG of STPI on this. We are building separately on this. We are already onto them through Prime Minister's office. Then there will be the facilitation of export-oriented unit, EOU, as you know. And there are some specific tax benefits, both in direct and indirect taxes, which we want to pass on to these entrepreneurs or who will come and participate in this IT hub. Next slide. Now, what will be in our proposed smart IT hub? First of all, there will be a completely dedicated internet lease line and cloud services. There will be an incubation service. We have already designed this on some international program, which we will gradually unfold. There will be plug and play facilities. All desktop, laptops, cubicles, everything will be there provided. There will be complete data security, cyber security, firewall, data center, and data recovery facilities. And there will be completely uninterrupted power supply. All furniture, fixtures, everything will be provided by us. Next. Next slide, please. Here comes the catch. Now, many of the startups, many of the entrepreneurs face a lot of problem when it comes to the costing part or how to provide for the finance for whatever good ideas or brilliant ideas they might have in their mind. We are there to support them fully. So not only the incubation center, but we will give full financial benefit as available from the government and financial institutions. There will be one window through which we will provide all this. They don't have to run helter-skelter here or there, knocking from this door to that door. That we will ensure. We will provide trained manpower if some startups or MSMEs find it difficult to hire some manpower for a long time. We will give short-time manpower or need-based manpower from our pool of trained manpower. We will also be very accurate on the side that no extra charge will be charged from the investors who are the vendors or customers who will come and set up their shops. Actual space use per square feet will be charged. Actual infrastructure, whatever is being used, will be charged. Whatever data security, cyber security a person will use will be charged. There will be no general charges. It will be very much need-based and part by part charges that will help them. Next slide, please. On costing also, exclusive server will be provided to the customers wherever they will require, or it can be shared also as per their need-based. The rate on electricity will be charged on actual basis. Housekeeping, maintenance, etc. All these charges will be on actual basis without any profit. Another point I want to share, maybe that you also know about it. Why we are focusing on MSMEs and startups so much? Honorable Prime Minister has already earmarked an amount of rupees 3 lakh crore for upgradation of MSMEs into technological upgradation. So that fund is already there. We will help the MSMEs and startups so that they can avail their due share from that fund. Not only that we will handhold them, but we will also approach banks and financial institutions and others who are providing these loans so that they can apply, they can avail that soft loan, and they can invest in this IT park. Next slide, please. Now, what is the difference? As I was mentioning, what is the difference in the IT hub of others? There are a lot of IT hubs already there. And why we are building a fresh IT hub in Calcutta, or more specifically in the outskirts of Calcutta? This is specifically designed for the startups and MSMEs. We will be having the 7-tier infrastructure with data center and data recovery of Singapore. Whoever has gone there or seen, you have all seen the enterprise Singapore facilities. What kind of details, facilities and detailed mapping they have done. So we are modeling our approach on that Singapore approach, which is an international standard or world standard, one can say. There will be zero data loss in these facilities. Secondly, plug and play and pay as you go. These modules are followed in Singapore. So we are also following that model here in Kolkata. We have already designed on some verticals. There may be some changes, but basically this has been designed based on the MeitY's policy, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technologies policies, or the current policy of the government. So we have thought that we should focus on this. But again, I am saying that this is no such straight jacket. We can change based on your suggestions. So there is our focus on coding, OTT development. A lot of discussions have already taken place on that. AI development and its application. Next slide, please. Software development and billing outsourcing hub. There are a lot of outsourcing for billing. A lot of people are doing their billing here. So there is a huge scope for small MSMEs and even startups to take part for global billing outsource. Already something is going on in Newtown, Rajarhat, Salt Lake Sector 5 area, but there is a huge scope for tapping the global billing outsource. So we are going for that. Coming to the next one, developing gaming portals. I need to focus on certain government's objectives on this. Recently, we have seen that the government of India has banned several Chinese apps which provides, like PUBG, etc., which provides gaming. and Prime Minister has gone on record that why can't we produce this gaming in India under Make in India program? Government of India through MeitY has already declared huge subsidies if anybody is interested in developing the gaming portals. In conformity with the government's program, in conformity with what our Honorable Prime Minister has said, we are making this door open for all young entrepreneurs who themselves participates in games, international games, these games. Many there are games, they have become addict, but they are brilliant people. So we will give them fund, we will provide them space, we just want their mind. So we approach all these people, young people who come and join. We will arrange for your fund, we will give everything to you, we will give you space, whatever technicalities you require, we will give everything. You come, you join, and you develop the gaming portal so that India will be the world hub of gaming. Next, robotics and drone, please earlier slide, robotics and drone integration. You have seen how many people have lost lives in terrorist activities. So the defense of all the countries are now focusing on robotics and drone integration in risk operation. Already CDAC under MeitY is doing something, but we want to do it in a much, much bigger way so that the defense needs of many countries can be obtained from the development of robotics and drone. There are a lot of aspects in civil also. So both for civil and defense, we want to go for this robotics and drone integration. Next slide, please. Now, we already stated that there is likely to be an investment of 2,000 crores. We are already on the job, and very soon we will be commencing this project. Already we got the green signal from Government of India, and very soon we will have it from the Government of West Bengal. So what we feel that this will be really, really a golden opportunity for all the IT entrepreneurs, startups, MSMEs to take part in this smart IT hub. It is for smart people. Smart people may be without a lot of money, but smart people with brilliant ideas. Smart people who want to pursue a career in IT, but they may not have a lot of finance, they may not have a lot of space. We are there to help them in their ideas. That is the motto of the Government of India. That is Prime Minister's dream. That is Make in India. That is Atmanirbhar Bharat. So to help that thing, we want to focus that this be the beginning. And so far we know there is no such thing as Make in India. We have not seen it very big in West Bengal. So this is going to be a very big project under Make in India for West Bengal. A gift from the Government of India in association, in close collaboration with Government of West Bengal, with the kind blessings of our Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal. However, this is our idea. So I open this forum, I take this opportunity of INFOCOM to keep it before you, to open this forum for your suggestion, for your ideas. You are brilliant people having years of experience in this line, both nationally and internationally. And you can always throw your ideas to us. You can have a look at our website. You can always give us your suggestions in our mail. You can give suggestions on the budget. You can do some more brainstorming. And really, I am really thankful to ABP and INFOCOM for this thing. We are already into some other projects on IT with Commonwealth and etc. So may not be the right forum for that. We have already had a detailed discussions with Commonwealth and many other IT forums. But anyway, that we will gradually deliver on that. But I again thanks ABP for taking us. Next slide, please. So this is my humble appeal to all of you. Come and join with us for making India, for making a brilliant Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Thank you, sir. So there's a question from Mr. Iman Ghosh. We just have time for one or two questions. Where is the location for the new Smart IT Hub? This is what Mr. Iman Ghosh is asking.
Okay. So we have already identified a big building. Already it is built up. So with 5 lakh square feet, it is in Newtown area.
All right, sir. So thank you so much for joining us today. Are there any more questions from the audience? Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Priyabrata Pramanik, for joining us for this session. And it's been an honor to have you, sir. We will move on to the next session. We are awaiting the Honorable IT Minister, Dr. Amit Mitra, to join in. He'll be joining us in about 2 minutes' time. So kindly be online till he is online. A mention about the sponsors for the event.
I have already joined, ma'am. Go ahead. Please say what you are saying.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure, sure. Go ahead and complete what you are saying, please.
Okay, sir. We will be moving on to the valedictory session. So a warm welcome to you, sir. I wish I could have met you in person. This event would have happened in person. You join us every year, and it is always a privilege to hear you. And but we are very fortunate to have you on a virtual platform. And sir, your session is titled "Doing Business in the Next Normal." And ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome Dr. Amit Mitra, sir, on the Honorable Minister of Finance, Industry, Commerce and Enterprises, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises and Textiles, and Information Technology and Electronics Departments, Government of West Bengal. On behalf of INFOCOM 2020, we warmly welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Now over to you, sir, for the valedictory session.
Thank you very much. I think, all right, I can start?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many of you are there. Usually valedictory sessions always tend to lose people, because after 3 days or whatever, third, fourth, today is the 5th, people must be very tired. So I will keep my comments as brief as possible, but I'd like to challenge some of the ideas that may have come up during your discussion, or support some of them that may have come up. So first of all, I'd like to say that I also join my Honorable Chief Minister, who inaugurated your INFOCOM, in remembering Mr. F.C. Kohli. I had known him personally, unlike many of the younger generation. And it was, am I audible? Okay. And I not only knew him well, I had the occasion to interact with him repeatedly. And I'll just say 2 words on something I read about him, which I did not know, in somebody's article, that when he came back from MIT in 1969, he had imported $2,500 worth of what was considered to be hardware and software. So the customs department held that product, and they asked for Mr. Kohli to visit them in person. So Mr. Kohli, when he went there, the customs people said that we can see the hardware, we can feel it, but we don't know what is the software. Normally, we would have put a charge against you for false statement. So where is the software? In other words, when he began, it was not even understood that software goes into the hardware, which is not palpable and visible and you can catch it, unlike catching a physical computer. So that's where he began, and therefore I pay my deep regards to him, having known him over many years. A pioneering entity indeed. Of course, I'd like to thank ABP Group. This is your 19th event, I believe. 18 times you have done it, and I have had the honor and pleasure of being there a few times. Let me go straight to the point. The Honorable Chief Minister has already given you the details of the major and significant rise of the IT sector in West Bengal since we came to office. She has given you the data, so I don't want to repeat them. 1,500 companies from 500 or so, a huge export turnover relative to what it was before. And she's also given you the percentage of growth. I would like to ask a fundamental question. Why West Bengal? Why this amazing change and growth in West Bengal? I must say that I must give you the answer from the horse's mouth. I can't name him because he now is heading something gigantic. At that time, he was heading a major software company, probably among the largest in the country. And I asked him in person, privately, what is the reason that you are employing thousands of people in Kolkata, Newtown, or wherever? His answer was very interesting, which has not been brought up probably in your conference. His answer was that the attrition rate, that means you recruit a young person, and then the person, after a year or so, moves on to somebody else. So your human capital is physically carried away. The attrition rate in Bengaluru and Hyderabad were in the range of 35%. Whereas the attrition rate in Kolkata was 3%. This is a very important dimension that I learned that day, that attrition rate in IT industry, I knew was very high. I didn't know it was 35%, as high as that in the two other major IT cities. But it is only 3% in Kolkata. And therefore, when your companies recruit people in West Bengal, they stay with you. They don't run away with their human capital. The attrition rate is only 3%. Of course, there is an element of human capital, which is very particular in West Bengal. Large number of engineering colleges, large number of institutions which cater to the IT sector. And also the location of the IT in Kolkata and around, whether it is Salt Lake or whether it's Newtown, whether it's the Silicon Valley hub that is coming up, whether it is TCS's campus or Wipro's campus, or for that matter, even if it is Cognizant's campus, the capacity to get there from home is very, very simple. Imagine Bengaluru. I remember once in my earlier days before I joined this government, fought an election and joined in 2011, I had gone to Bengaluru and Mr. Azim Premji, I had requested him to host a Japanese, very high-power Japanese IT team, and he had agreed, and he said, please come and have lunch. Now, we could not get to the lunch till 3 o'clock or 3:30 because we were stuck in traffic. I hope Bengaluru is better now to going to the Wipro campus. But we literally could not reach there till 3 o'clock. And the lunch was at 1:30. And as you know, the East stations eat around 12:30. Luckily, my colleagues are prepared for this. So there were some sandwiches in the bus and the cars. But Kolkata, it's very short journey from your home to your IT spot. So ease of getting there, very good human capital. And key is the attrition rate. Those from Bengal who join you, who live in West Bengal, have a cultural mindset where they don't walk away normally. Some do, I'm sure, but most don't. So the first question I would like to answer is that come to Bengal because you will have an attrition rate that you have never seen before. In Bengaluru or in Hyderabad or even in Maharashtra, in Navi Bombay, there are centers. You will find the attrition rate is very high. Let me go to the second question. What is it that, let me come to the topic because I don't want to take too much of your time. The next normal, that's the topic of your conference today. I must tell you that I have a difference of opinion. This is a very good catchword. And when the experts coin these terms, they catch on very quickly. So you have also taken that topic without a question mark. I wish you had asked a question, put a question mark, the next normal. I hope I would be able to put a question mark in my short deliberation. Now, are we looking at the next normal? My answer is no. This is abnormal. The COVID is abnormal. So we were seeing an IT revolution much before COVID. You talk of the bigger companies, the new innovators, those whom you call people who create problems in the market, which is Schumpeterian. Schumpeter said, either you're a processor entrepreneur, or you're a gap filler, or you're completely destabilizing the market to create something new. Now, those who are creating something new were very much there before COVID. Has that changed? No. That traffic may have increased because since people cannot meet each other, they go into social media more, they're able to do other things. So the point I'm making is that there was a normal and a lot of change was embedded in that normal. It's not that there is some new change beyond maybe 5%, 10%, like we are having a virtual conference. We would have probably had a conference in person. Now that is certainly a change, I admit it. But is there a next normal which is distinctly different? Is it like going from Newtonian physics to Einsteinian physics, where there's a paradigm shift? I don't think so. You will find that we will all go back to where we started from with some changes undoubtedly. Every process leaves behind certain changes. So my first question, the first question I pose to you is, the topic, the next normal, should have a question mark. In my view, this is not a new normal. Maybe it's an upgraded normal, where people will be using virtual conferencing rather than traveling across the world all the time. But it is certainly not something that will be abandoned, where interpersonal processes, meeting together, having proper conferences where, yes, you can have a virtual lounge today. It's not the same as having a real lounge where you exchange ideas and you jostle with ideas and you challenge each other and watch each other's body language. That is not there. You can have a virtual tea place or cafe, but it's not the same as what a cafe is in a regular conference. So my considered view is that unless some new viruses appear beyond the COVID-19, and again we fall back on the process of distancing and wearing masks and doing other things, even maybe at a higher level, unless that were to happen, I hope not, 90% of how businesses were done before what we will return to. I know it's a controversial idea, but I think it needs to be given appropriate thought. So you have IT, ITES, and with it, the telecom revolution that was happening. I think it will continue. And it may take certain trajectories. They can add certain values. They can create some bylanes, which were not there before. But by and large, I'm hoping this is a flip. This is a blip. And that blip will create, of course, its own dynamics, but will not be something which we can call completely a new normal. No, it's not a Newtonian physics revolution whereby the steam engine came in. It is not an Einsteinian discovery whereby the atom bomb came. Or it is not something that is so earth-shaking or what was not happening before that will change the trajectory of humankind into a new norm. No, I would have to concede that that is not the case. And for developing countries like India, it is even more so. Let me ask you, can you have manufacturing virtually? The answer is no. It has to be on a factory floor. Yes, you can use more and more advanced controls software so that remotely you can control a machine. And you can use robotics, which was already happening. Japanese car factories or some American car factories or German car factories are very highly robotized. That is already there. So it's not creating a new norm. So manufacturing will have to happen in the trajectory in which it was happening in terms of remote processes, in terms of virtual processing. Can tourism happen virtually? To a limited extent. Can you go to the Amalfi Coast of Italy and the Isle of Capri virtually and be the same? I'm sorry, you can't. Can you come to Taj Mahal virtually and sense and feel what Taj Mahal is about? You can't. Can you come to Kolkata, the vibrant city, the city of joy, as some people call it, and go into the coffee house virtually and get the same feel and touch? The answer is no. So hospitality is a very difficult area. Now I come to another important point, the boardroom. I happen to have been on the board of SAIL, the Steel Authority's largest steel producer, 5 years. I happen to have been on the board of GAIL, Gas Authorities, and several other such large institutions before I came to Kolkata. Now the boardroom environment, can you reproduce that for complex decisions, for big ticket changes, for going away from the path? I'll give you an example. In Steel Authorities, as an independent director, I proposed that SAIL should consider buying an island in Australia, Coal Island, which has coking coal. Now that became a debating issue in the board. There were government joint additional secretaries, there was a chairman, there were others. I tried to do a trajectory to show that you're going to run out of coking coal. Imports will be very high. If you consider having something even on a leasehold basis, you will find it useful. Now, I had to measure the body language of those members on the board with totally different trajectories. Could I have done it virtually and pushed it? Finally, a committee was formed to do so. It never happened. That's a different story. But I think there was a response in the board. Same way in GAIL, I realized that 25% of GAIL's production was plastics. I didn't know that. I thought it's only a gas gas transmission company. It was not. But that led to certain very solid debates, person to person in the board, and then subcommittee meetings before the board. Could we have done all that virtually to the last T of a complex process of change in course? Perhaps not. Those who have experienced the high-level boards. I just found an old picture where I was on the advisory board of Microsoft. I sent it to Dr. Vijay Kelkar because he was a member, and so was Mr. Vagul, and I was so honored, Dr. Mashelkar. Now, when we got together, Dr. Mashelkar, a scientist, Dr. Vijay Kelkar, a petroleum scientist who happened to be also a PhD in economics from Berkeley, and Mr. Bagul with huge experience in banking, and of course, the counterparts from the United States. Could we have met in the manner that we did? Very different people, very different types of tolerances, and different types of vibrations and different types of contentions. Could we have met virtually and come to some conclusions? Perhaps not. I just found that picture yesterday and I sent it to Vijay, Dr. Kelkar, and he asked me what date was this. So point was that those who are standing in that picture were very different from each other. Not a mechanical process at all. So my submission, therefore, is top-level complex decisions, contentious activity where 2-3 board members differ with each other and they're debating the future of the companies, large companies. I don't think that can happen virtually. So let's not call it a new norm, that the boards will all become virtual. Yes, maybe smaller companies, okay. Routine board meetings, okay, as we do by circulation sometimes, but not in the cutting edge manner. Now, then I come to developing countries. As far as developing countries are concerned, 93% of employment is in the unorganized sector in India. 93%. Now, can they go virtual? After demonetization's attack, absolutely thoughtless in my view, never happened before. Gaddafi did 86% of demonetization. Soviet Union did twice. None of them worked. What really hurt was the unorganized sector and the small and medium enterprises. Now, then they come and meet GST, which some of them are in, some of them are not, but then they finally come up with COVID-19. What happens? The chai wala, where we all go and sit in the corner in Kolkata and argue with each other on everything on earth. Chai wala became a mobile chai wala. I'm amazed that behind our apartment complex, it's a guy who suddenly started hearing a voice. I couldn't understand what he was saying, looked out, and he was carrying a kettle with a heater-like thing, charcoal at the bottom. And he was saying lemon tea. Chai wala has become mobile. And the chai shop has become a vegetable shop. Amazing how the poor people, the unorganized sector people, amazing innovation. But they couldn't become virtual because that was not their forte. So 93% of your unorganized sector, the minute the vaccine happens and things become normal, I think they'll go back to the market with a vengeance. And those who have been to Kolkata and have seen Goria Hat market or this market or that market where informal sector proliferates, you will find them full, back to normal. The in-between was only a blip. Now let me then go to the, let me go to a physical example. I know somebody who lives abroad, who heads something called the Insight in a company that is very large. I mean, probably $100 billion. I don't know what is the turnover. What is Insight? No Indian firm has Insight. Insight is essentially consumer behavior with big data analytics. Because they have very large markets, maybe they are in 50 countries. Now that person never left the home for the last 3 years before COVID, excepting for that 5% of the time when the person will go to the head office abroad in a major city. What for? That's the time that you try to assess and understand further senior leadership and their perspectives. The other time the person will go out of that particular city is when they had a retreat. Now, what do you do in a retreat? Why have a retreat? Have a virtual retreat? No, in the retreat, you learn the chemistry of each other. Not only your own thinking, which you may be able to posit on the virtual world, but you cannot connect with each other in the manner in which you can do physically, where you assess the chemistry of people, because you have to work together. You have to exchange thoughts together. You have to bring change together. For that, there was a tradition of retreats. So will we continue to have retreats? Yes, of course. Because that personal chemistry cannot be produced on a virtual basis. So the person was practically virtual 95%, working not from an office, well before COVID. But there was that 5%, which probably was at the cutting edge of the work that the person did. So we will return to that normal of some kind of division between virtual and real. And there may be some changes to that because virtual has become more efficient. So again, I'm challenging the idea of the so-called normal, those fleeting moments when you meet your CEO at a dining table and there are 5 others, everyone trying to assess each other in terms of getting some value out of the discussion. That cannot be done on a virtual basis. So let's not say that this is out of sync. Let me come to my last point. There are some serious structural issues in the Indian economy which have not been addressed. I was looking at a McKinsey study, and interestingly, what they're basically saying, they identified some structural issues. I have more structural issues in mind. What happened to investment? As you know, for 7 quarters before COVID-19, 7 quarters, the GDP growth declined, coming to 3.1% in January to March. Why? Was it the demonetization whose reverberations extended? Was it the 7 months later launch of the GST in an unprepared manner, which as the chairman of the Empowered Committee of Finance Ministers, it is in Kolkata, in a hotel in Kolkata. I pushed the other finance ministers to consider accepting GST, provided we had 5 years of unbroken compensation if there was a loss, less than 14% rate of growth of revenue. And Mr. Arun Jaitley came down. And finally, that sentence, which became the linchpin, the key, the fulcrum to the amendment, got changed. Now, is that a structural reform that has not done well? And what will happen to that? What will happen to the demonetizations, revibrations? I don't see any major study. I don't do economics as a profession anymore. I hope economists as professions bring out papers, should have by now. The granular implications of the demonetization, negative granular implication. I've only said informal sector, unorganized sector, MSME, but let's get the structural factors. What did it break? I hear an economist, who happens to be a politician now, has been for some time, since 1972. I just heard him saying that there should be a CBI probe against RBI. Now, whether you agree with that statement or not, what does he say? What are the thinkers in different groups saying? Saying what are the issues of non-performing assets? What are the issues of bank mergers? Has any granular analysis been done? I chair the SLBC, State Level Banking Committee. Overnight, some of those banks became some other bank, and headquarters moved from Kolkata to Delhi for the one that is a major bank headquartered in Kolkata. What is the granular implication of that? How does it affect the NPA? Now you come to exports. It's the same story. negative 8.1, negative 5.5% at one point recently. Then you come to bank lending growth, I also find 8.1% negative, a whole set of negatives in the structural domain. Are we going to address those? Is that bigger than just the virtual norm that we are talking about today, which I have put a question mark on? And I come to my very last point. How does one handle these structural processes that are going on? One part of the story. The second is, how does one handle the macroeconomy facing COVID? That's the question of norm or abnormality or blip. I am really disappointed that, and I'm not talking about this politically, I'm talking about this as an economist's perspective, that when the COVID hit, what should have triggered in the mind of the government of India? What should have triggered is the Great Depression about to happen. Yes, first quarter our GDP shrank by 23.4%. Second quarter negative percent, which means now we are officially under recession. Now that was known then when the lockdown was imposed. What does one do after that? For IT and ITS industry, in effect, because it doesn't live in isolation, it lives within the matrix of the entire economy. What they should have done is taken from what is called Keynesian neoclassical synthesis, which happened post-Great Depression. Stimulate demand. Private sector is unable to do so because you have a lockdown imposed on them. Their factories can't function. Their spirits are down. Now you as government, what in simple Keynesian multiplier we say, delta G, that is a government expenditure multiplied by 1 upon 1 minus marginal propensity to consume, which in India, by the way, happens to work out to a figure of 4. So if you spend 100 rupees from the government, particularly in capital expenditure and other kinds of consumer activity, you will get to a maximum of 4 times GDP from that. It's instantaneous. I mean, for the consumer part, it's instantaneous. What did United Kingdom do? It gave a furlough. 80% of your salary shall be paid by the government. And you don't have to, if you have been laid off, if you're not called to work. Look at the United States, 20% of their GDP. Look at Japan, huge. USA is about 9.5, 10%. Japan is 20%, which was direct demand stimulation. It is Keynesian, simple macroeconomics. Macroeconomics 101. Now, ITS cannot live outside of this structural environment of the marketplace. But they didn't do it. Why didn't they do it? I don't know. No understanding of macroeconomics, no appropriate advice. Now that certainly hurts every industry. Maybe IT industry a little less because we can work from home. We can outsource, do the outsourcing work from home. Maybe knowledge process outsourcing we can do from home. But imagine what happens to the software you provide to the factories, which is what has happened in the West, which hasn't happened as much in India. And I was always of the opinion that that is where software has to go, which is embedded software in the factory floor. And I know companies were doing it, but very limitedly. So my question is, if you've killed part of the economy or demonetization, then you introduce an half-baked or one-third baked GST, which is floundering, which is growing, we are all meeting trying to make it happen. And then comes COVID and you sit back and say, I'm not going to use the Keynesian neoclassical synthesis or the Keynesian parameters. I'm not going to take any lessons from the Great Depression. I will take no lessons from 2008's financial meltdown. Can you imagine a country like United States, supposed to be a capitalist country of the first order, kind of symbolically capitalist? The government of the United States said $800 million to rejuvenate the automobile industry. Government pays. It saved Lehman Brothers. That's absolutely non-capitalist. You look at Raghuram Rajan's book saying capitalist against capitalism. And at that time, he said the US is much better than Europeans because they don't save companies. Europeans, when the big companies are in trouble, their government step in and they save them. Sorry, post-2008, America stepped in and they saved their companies transparently, not in any biased manner, with proper discussion through the Congress and the Senate. Cannot do it on an executive basis. So my submission is, I'll conclude by saying, first of all, I've challenged the issue of a new norm. What is this new norm? I think 90% of the norm will go back to the trajectory in which change was happening. Huge changes are happening. It's not that it was static. My second question is bringing you back to India. Don't forget that the poor people, the most innovative people in this country at the grassroots level of unorganized and informal sector, will not be able to and have not been able to take advantage of the virtual process. It's not available to them. Chief Minister has just announced 9 lakh students of the 12th class in government schools and madrasas will get a tablet. Why? Because they are not able to attend to the virtual classrooms taking place. The schools don't have virtual classrooms and nobody has the device because they are poor. That's their fault. Whereas we, the middle class, our children all are having virtual classrooms. So don't forget this element that those who provide 93% of jobs in this country do not have access to what you and I have. So don't call it a new norm. The norm may be for you. And that also I'm challenging. So it's not a norm for you. You cannot go to a serious boardroom meeting virtually and make hard decisions against contentious issues of the other board members and convince them by reading body language, by reading chemistry of each other. You can't do it virtually. And no manufacturing can happen virtually. You can't produce a pin or what Adam Smith called widget in his Great Wealth of Nations. You can't produce it virtually. It's not like a ghost that a widget flies in and fixes your stuff and cuts your boxes. Widget is something with which you cut tapes on packed boxes with a thin edge. You don't get it in India. You can't have an imaginary widget, yes, unless you have a special beam that comes and cuts it. So my submission is, there is the new norm is perhaps 5%, which is very productive and very useful. But 95% will go back to the trajectory of the changes you see. And with it will come the IT sector. But my concern for India is that structural issues are not being addressed. Instead, you have a demonetization, you have a GST, unprepared GST. Do you know that GST, 300 crore invoices were to be uplinked per month? Imagine the IT structure needed for that. GSTN, started by Nilekani. Do you know what it ended up doing? In March of this year, Nilekani came and addressed our GST Council, of which I'm a member, and said 71,000 frauds have taken place. 71,000 frauds he identified. Why? Because the IT problem wasn't solved. So for India, the informal sector, the unorganized sector, the small and medium enterprises, providing the largest employment in this country, for them, there was no new norm. They will return to where they were with a vengeance. And I'm sure they'll come out doing well. But they need the support of the Keynesian multiplier from delta G, which is government expenditure. Hasn't happened to date. Only day before yesterday, I heard the Niti Aayog senior person saying government needs to spend more. But the person was too afraid perhaps to say government should spend more in giving cash money to the hands of people to create demand, because 60% of India's GDP comes from consumer spending. So I conclude by saying, I'm not concluding that there is no new norm. I'm leaving a big question mark in your mind. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me this opportunity. On behalf of Government of West Bengal, after my Honorable Chief Minister already inaugurated your session, I hope I've thrown some ideas into the pot that you will carry home and think about. The next, the new norm, or the new, whatever you want to call it. Kindly let's do the granular analysis to understand what after the vaccines come. Where will our industry be? How will they behave? How will the boardrooms behave? How will the MSMEs behave? How will the informal sector behave? And how will the manufacturing sector in the world behave, aside from aviation and tourism? I would say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to ABP and to Purogayastha Sahib and all of you present here. I'm deeply grateful for giving me this opportunity to reflect on something that I normally don't get a chance to reflect on. Thank you. Namaskar. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining us today, and really thank you for your invaluable insights and inspiration. We are very honored to have you with us. It is always a privilege to have you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
With that, we come to the end of the INFOCOM 2020 virtual conference. I take this opportunity to thank all our sponsors, speakers, and all of you delegates for joining us over the 3 days and making the program a grand success. I also thank all the viewers who have been viewing our show on YouTube. Thank you everyone for participating and partnering INFOCOM 2020. Be well, be safe, and stay virtually connected. Have a good evening.